voters anyway. This is a fair question, but it doesn't strike me as an important one. It's not important. The AOC that AOC voted, listen to this, guys, that AOC voted present instead of no during the House landslide vote in favor of funding Israel's Iron Dome was literally no consequence. So it's like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. Who cares? That vote to break a strike, if she didn't vote if she voted the other way, it would have still went through. So who cares? It's inconsequential. But then that's the whole reason she should not be making said vote. That is the whole reason.
You should be raising a ruckus.
Strike when your vote is not
needed. The key.
Go ahead.
You should be raising a ruckus in those situations. It doesn't matter that shit passed or not. And that's why it's absurd that people focus so much on presidential politics. The people say, oh, I want to run the president so I can make a splash. If you really cared about making change, you run in Congress in a position you're more likely to win. And you can actually generate a ton of media attention as a member of Congress. You don't have to be a president to do that. Marjorie Taylor Greene says hi. Matt Gaetz says hi. AOC and the squad says hi. You can be a member of Congress and drive national discourse. Imagine if you are the no vote on every single pro-Israeli vote. And then when people call you up for it, you're like, yeah, let's hold a press conference. We're going to have a press conference. Let's go through this Israeli thing. Let's just go through you guys' criticism. They don't do that because they're not leftist leaders. They're not one. They don't want the funk. They're not down with the fight. So people are like, think we ever run president? Like, no. Like there's way more effective techniques. Like you can be a congressperson and shift political discourse. They do not. They choose not to. And he said it's not in no consequence that AOC don't vote for her values. No, the consequence is that you avoid and you duck these important conversations that is meant to shift the Overton window to the left. They duck these conversations. They duck these fights because they are failures as leftist leaders.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, that's hitting it right on the head. Whether she votes no or present, to this guy's point, is not really relevant. Whether the vote is close or not close is not as relevant as does she raise a ruckus like she promised to. That's the big thing. He's putting all the emphasis on the votes and whether the votes were of consequence or whether they were symbolic votes, whether they were present votes, whether they were no votes, right? All of that is of less importance than do you use your office the way Shama Sawant uses her office on the Seattle City Council, which is the way an activist uses their office. That was the main pitch of the squad. And they have showed really no interest at all in really delivering on any of that. I mean, to the extent that they do get out in the field, like AOC rallied, I think, once or twice with the UPS workers, but she joined their rally. ALU, she joined their rally when she was shamed into doing it, right? She doesn't organize her own events, right? Organize her own mass actions. That's what the theory of the squad was. Not do they vote present, no, in a landslide or a close or a symbolic vote or a pragmatic vote. I mean, that's all just real inside baseball stuff that is very much like besides the point.
You know, I'll even go a step further when we look at AOC and the whole squad. You know, when they first came into creation, especially Justice Democrats, when Kyle and Jane created that organization, the one thing that's been missing, or the main key thing that should have been added in when Justice Democrats came into fruition, was the idea of a contract or accountability in keeping these Justice Democrats in line so that, you know, they don't get co-opted by the Democratic Party. None of that was put into the foresight for Kyle or Cenk or the Justice Democrats. So as soon as they got elected into office, the squad was able to fly off or surf off the goodwill that they obtained in 2018. And since then, they've been able to protect themselves to where now they don't need the progressive movement and they could just play along and say things on social media that will get enough sheep to support them. That's why we really see why AOC isn't really afraid of being held accountable. She's okay. She knows that she can get away with it and still have, I guess, enough brain dead people to support her.
Brain dead people. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to emphasize one point and I'll pass it to you, TJ. You're like, oh, it's just bad votes. They voted for Hakeem Jeffries, fam. Sam, do you know how absolutely absurd that is? Hakeem Jeffries, who made it public, and not like we got WikiLeaks documents of him saying this stuff, like publicly saying, "I'm going to wage war against the socialists and the left in my party. I'm going to destroy
I'll never
the
bend
Bernie
the knee to
Sanders
democratic
left."
socialism. Yeah,
Wasn't leaked emails. The stuff he just said casually.
right.
He in Twitter he will tweet stuff before, especially before he became leader. After he became leader, he became more relaxed. But before he became leader, he was like openly will tweet belligerent shit about like the AOC and Bernie left, talking about how they destroying the party, and they voted for that guy. But according to this guy who wrote the article, yeah, he just voted for the enemy of our movement. Not a big deal.
All right. So the Bowers' more pertinent charge is that AOC has failed to win substantial ideological concessions from the Democratic Party, and that this is indicative of the left's more general failure to achieve anything through engagement with democratic politics, a failure that was foreordained by the Democratic Party's basic nature. What do you guys think? Because this to me is sort of spot on an analysis of the Democratic Party, so of what we kind of articulate every day in our streams, that these progressives are not doing anything to push them left. That's what this means about substantial ideological concessions. They're not doing anything to push them left. They're consistently moving to the right, and they are also being pulled to the right. But go ahead, Nick. You were going to chime in.
I'll pass it to Keem, but I was just wondering where the writer is going with it, because he's like, this is what the argument this guy is making.
Right, he's setting up that's what I'm thinking too.
Go ahead, kid.
No, he's setting up he's summarizing the other guy's argument that he's going to then try and dismantle. But what are we, 3-4 paragraphs in?
Yeah. So this is where he begins to give his side. So the left has won a lot more than nothing from engaging with the Democratic Party. This incredibly strong claim that despite Bernie Sanders, AOC, and a myriad of other progressive agitation, the Democratic Party has offered the left nothing is fundamental to De Boer's perspective. It is why he finds it offensive that AOC would endorse Biden's reelection, even as the president faces no leftist challenger save Cornel West's Green Party campaign. And this is just a shout out. This is the line that Bree calls out from the writer, and she quote tweets him. It blows up. It kind of goes viral. She gets like 2,000 views or likes on it. And where there's the exchange with Marianne Williamson is this part here, because he says faces no leftist challenger.
Right.
So we'll get to that a little bit later. All right. So De Boer insists that Biden's contempt for progressive goals has been so total as to leave leftists with little reason to support his reelection. And then he goes to quotes him. I don't need to read that part. Let's continue. Yeah, so we don't need to read that part. De Boer goes on to suggest that the left's attempt to make change through engagement with the Democratic Party rather than through third-party politics or non-electoral organizing has been an abject failure. Now, I pause it here. How is that not?
Back to you, CJ.
Yeah, let's just play this again because we got to break down what she does here.
Yeah,
because
I'll be right back. Right back.
It did not go unnoticed, shall we say, on the internet and elsewhere, that you were on the floor having some conversations with Republicans, including Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar.
I should have set this up more. Let me set this up because you might be looking at AOC and like, why does she look a little more nervous than she does in another video? How she looks a little fake, like she kind of sitting up there. She understands this show because understand Alex replaced the slot for the biggest propaganda on MSNBC. So she's saying, I'm here. This is the high level propaganda. So I got to have my game tight. And that's what she's doing here. And that's why the nervousness, in my opinion. Let's listen now that I set it up correctly. Let's listen to what she says here.
It did not go unnoticed, shall we say, on the internet and elsewhere, that you were on the floor having some conversations with Republicans, including Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar. Can you enlighten us at all as to what those conversations were like? And is there any hope that you guys work together to get Hakeem Jeffries elected as Speaker of the House?
You hear that question? Do you hear the question? And what are you guys going to do? As if, because remember, this is the left network. And so he's a Democrat and he's black. What are you going to do to get him elected? Now, if that was me, and it's Congressman Compton J, what the fuck are you talking about, Alex Wagner? Hakeem Jeffries is a smidget, if at all, different than anybody on the Republican side. So I don't know what you're talking about. But no, we're not getting no Hakeem Jeffries elected. Instead, we're going to do this. That would have been my response.
Yes, DJ.
But of course, that's not hers. Go ahead.
Yes, to that point, that's such a great point. And after this segment, I think that's a good time to transition. I'm going to show you guys the Lauren Boebert, Sean Hannity. And guys, this clip from last night went hella viral on Twitter. That's why I know CJ not on Twitter as much as I
saw
am.
videos. No, I saw videos made of it where I can see them. I think it's a Majority Report video, actually.
Dude,
they talk about it, yes.
The contrast between that and this could not be more night and day. It's embarrassing for AOC. AOC and the squad going around bragging that they're not raising a ruckus, that they're good little Democrat Party operatives. Meanwhile, Lauren Boebert was like, I don't give a fuck what you say, you old fucking shit. I said what I said.
I gotta see this.
It kills me that we had to look to the right to see people do that. Because the right, as we explained many times before, their job is to shift over to window. The progressives, their job is to lose. Pramila Jayapal's job is to lose. AOC's job is to come out here and look like a dumbass. Because their job is to emasculate and embarrass the left. Disenfranchise the left as much as possible. It's not about winning for them. That's their job in the establishment. The more they embarrass the left, the more they emasculate the left, the more the establishment will like them. You got fucking Jennifer Rubin shit posting with AOC. All the blue check liberals love AOC now. Not because she wins, it's because she loses for them. But go ahead, let's continue the video.
The House.
I think in chaos.
I don't know if you know the tale with AOC. This is a question she did not expect, and she's trying to. It comes out as a word salad because she's trying not to answer the question.
And look at what she said too. Notice the terminology she used in this chaos.
Right.
Remember what we broke down yesterday? And ever since then, that was 2 days ago. You've seen it more, haven't you guys? Everyone repeating chaos. This is chaos. That's the buzzword. You guys see how fast AOC is to repeat that? 22 seconds in, she's repeating the memo language. Go ahead, CJ.
I have this here. I was going to bring it up later, but chaos to describe democracy. Understand what they're doing, people. It's chaos that you have a different opinion. That's what they're saying. Absolutely. It's chaos that these three members are vying for their district. It's chaos that you're holding us hostage. How democracy is supposed to work. You see what they're doing? They are getting people to go to be good lapdogs.
Yes.
To that is what's rewarded, like a dog. Here, you understand. I always say this about animals. People can have a different view. I'll go, they always call dogs more smart because dogs obey. And I'm like, to me, the cat is the smarter one. He's saying, fuck you, nigga. I do what the fuck I want to do when I want to do it. So, but I bring that up to say just American culture believes that the dog is the smarter one because he's doing what he's told at cue. Anyway, chaos to describe democracy is an interesting Chaos to who? Who are they talking about, and who are they describing to who? It's not us.
Remember, CJ, yeah, I love that you said that right in. They're not talking to us. Remember, most people are not, and people I see boomers get mad at me. I'm not mocking you guys. I'm literally just going by the facts that literally all the people who watch corporate news is born. I'm not saying all boomers, but the boomers who watch this is gonna be like, oh my god, democracy is chaos. The whole corporate news model is about scaring the shit out of boomers. Democracy is chaos. The sin is chaos. So according to them, and this is what happened over the last 100 years to show that we live in a capitalist dictatorship. Accordingly, in the last 100 years, the second in demand in line of the presidency was chosen behind the scenes by party leaders without any input from the people and the representatives. That is not democracy. And they ain't talk about this like, oh my god, it's such a smooth system. We get our leaders chosen. We don't want to cause a ruckus that embarrass our institution to the ordinary people. We don't want to show disorder. That's a good thing. It's a positive thing. But they hate it. They hate the idea that their lineage is going to be ruined. And I see some people say, oh my god, Kevin McCarthy deserves this. He worked hard for this. That's supposed to be hard. So for them, it's all about the career. You don't want to ruin someone who worked hard for this position. Let us anoint people, ignore the peasants, and fall in line. That is not a democracy. And the exact opposite, they show us chaos, and that's how they want to breed the American people. That's how they want people to believe. But go ahead, CJ.
Yes, just tossing. I want to make sure we get a lot of comments up. So you're making everyone ride the volume. Sorry. It is a habit. I used to be a DJ at a gentleman's club, so it is a habit when I'm talking or like, because this is how I would have to talk with the mic, and I would lean in because it's a lot of music. So it's a habit, and I haven't broke it yet. My apologies, but let's get back to the video.
I think in chaos, anything is possible, especially in this era. You know, it is unlikely, but there's always a possibility. I do think that in terms of some of those conversations, I mean, listen, some of us in the House of Representatives are independent in certain ways from our party. And I do believe that in some of those conversations, there are things that are happening on the floor. These machinations are happening on the floor. And sometimes the leadership of your party, in this case, the Republican Party, will be making claims in order to try to twist arms and get people in line. And a lot of times, information and truth is currency. So sometimes to be able to fact check some of the claims that McCarthy is making, whether Democrats are going to defect or not, et cetera, is important in order to keep him honest and to keep people honest in general. And so, you know,
what the fuck is she talking about? What is she
rambling.
even describing? Why can't she is on video?
You took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK." You know, I'm sure, the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of Black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints.
You didn't just say they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern Grand Wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate in this country. This is dividing our country to a breaking point.
That is a debate that is based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against Black people. How on earth is she a modern Grand Wizard of that kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about. There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, that if you're Black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view. That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being a Grand Wizard of the KKK? Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history. So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today? The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think that is an intellectually useful starting point for a provocative discussion that we need to have in this country.
The whole point is the KKK wasn't just about rhetoric.
We have to speak openly.
They lynched people, they murdered people, they raped people, they burned their homes.
And that was wrong.
Simply
that was obviously wrong.
Wrong. Okay, so again,
that is obviously a wrong thing.
If you want to have an intellectual discussion, do you think that maybe comparing her to the Grand Wizard and
let's stop this shit. Welcome to the Nick and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's popping, my friends, my family? It's great to be with you guys. I think we're gonna do Monday and Friday for Nick and CJ's. At least with the current schedule, I think that's a good. With our channel, we always evolving and changing, but I think that's what we're gonna do for the current era. So welcome to the Friday edition of the Nick and CJ show. And this is an argument between two clowns who I cannot pick on.
You were thinking the same thing because I was like, it was excruciating hearing a person who has no understanding of any sort of ethnic history, Black history at all. And she's trying to argue against it. It's just a liberal sort of surface level understanding. And she's trying to be the person to argue this. And it's shallow. And it's
this is an example how they are given a script and they are not allowed to critically think, or maybe they hire people who can't critically think. Yeah, so, and I say this all the time, I'm very frustrated with liberal culture. And that's why I go directly at them. Because they actually do a lot of harm towards our cause of racial justice. When you have performances like these that make everyone roll their eyes. For one, why is she so triggered? Why is she so upset? Think about what Vivek said. I saw this in the news. I saw the headline and everything. I didn't cover it, but I think this now is a good time to talk about it. Where Vivek compared, was it Jayapal or
Ayanna Pressley? I know she's in
Presley.
it. I don't know if who else is in it. I know Ayanna Pressley's in it though.
So one of the squad NPCs, they're all the same. Everyone forgot
insert name here. Insert name here.
Same fucking thing. Same fucking thing. So one of them squad NPCs said, we don't need another brown voice in the race that is not down for the struggle. And liberals like, what, that Dana Bash, right? These people are like fucking blurs to me. That's Dana Bash, right?
Yeah.
they are like,
propaganda's here.
They're like, yes, queen, you guys are the voice for brown people.
Oh my God.
That's why I'm on a completely different wavelength on this story than liberals are, because I told you I completely reject liberal culture and their point of view, right? So they are mad at Vivek for criticizing the squad for saying that he shouldn't have a voice because they disagree with him. They are not in the right here, fam. You understand that? That's why I'm saying you got two clowns. I'm rooting against both of them because Vivek's a clown too. But how do you manage? How do you manage to take a clown like Vivek? I'll pass it right to you, CJ. But how do you manage to take a clown like Vivek and make him seem sympathetic in any scenario? This is what you're going after Vivek for? Because think about what they're saying, CJ. And this is why I'm taking this point of view on this story, which is completely different than I've seen a lot of people. I've seen everyone like, yeah, Vivek, how dare you compare it to the KKK? Vivek is repeating white supremacist talking points. How dare you? I'm like, nigga, she said that if you're brown, you should not speak unless you're down for the brown cause. Now, let's translate what that means. So she's saying if you're a brown skin, if you're black, if you're Indian, shut the fuck up unless you vote Democrat. Unless you're a Democrat, your voice
that's what she means
nothing.
Down for the cause.
Yeah,
that's what she means by down for the cause.
Because I feel like I watched the discourse around this story, and I feel like everyone fucking missed it. Yeah. Everyone pretend that Vivek is the bad guy here. No.
I have the receipts for this story. We're gonna do the full story, so I have the receipts. I'll bring it up.
I am not saying
in a second. This is just something I wasn't aware of. See, I had a completely. It's not different. It's different because I had a different understanding.
I want to hear your perspective.
It's like because I was like not necessarily agreeing. I had the point of view that both of these motherfuckers is not doing nothing for the cause. And I was thinking of the cause as a real revolution of liberation.
Yes, so, we
like what we're doing. Yeah, so I was like, Ayana, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. You're another brown face that's not doing it. So that's I was calling out both of them, saying like, no, but you're not. But this is interesting. You add this different layer that I didn't even think of. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, because if you look at her quote, she said the last thing we need is another brown face who's not in the struggle. So essentially, you're not allowed to speak unless you agree with her. Which once again, if that came from Malcolm X, that came from Margaret Kimberly, Gerald Ford, and people that follow the Black revolutionary spirit, the brown revolutionary spirit in some cases, you'd be like, yeah, that's actually a base quote. If you're not down for the revolution, shut the fuck up. But when you look at her point of view, you're like, how fucking dare you? Because what she's saying is that we don't need brown and black people who are not Democrats. And that's why RBN gets so much heat. I'm not down with that, That's why RBN gets so much heat. They can't stand the fact that you got young black people telling people to leave the Democratic Party, CJ. So that's how I interpret it. I think we interpret it similar ways, but I see this as two clowns. I can't root from either one of them. But the overall response, I don't know if you saw the same thing. I seen like we kind of we a little bit late on the story. I saw a lot of other people cover it. I seen some commentary on this as well, and like everyone's like attacking Vivek. And I'm not saying his position is great, but he is definitely not in the wrong in this situation. And if you look at the clip, if you see the clip again,
I can play the clip. Yeah, you will see that the one who posted it.
Yeah, you will see that Vivek is literally like, yeah, I said that, but here, let me explain my point. And the point he's making is, which is I think is kind of a extreme example, right? The comparison used, but he's saying like, you saying that people who don't agree with you, they're black and brown, you telling them to shut the fuck up. So Vivek actually had a good point there. Where he's like, how dare you guys say that because I'm brown, I can't talk about politics? Which is not our position. We called him out for being wrong. But Pramila Jayapal or Presley or whatever, they said that he shouldn't run. He shouldn't be a voice at all. And that goes to the Uncle Tom bullshit rhetoric that liberals adopted in this new age. Because they used to call people Uncle Toms. Now they just call you Candace Owens. You know what I mean? So they substituted Candace Owens. Yeah. They realized that Uncle Tom was offensive. So they're like, all right, we can't call people Uncle Tom no more. So we're gonna say, oh, you're acting like Candace Owens. And I remember I ratioed this liberal to death because he's like, oh, look at Nick, the Candace Owens. No, sorry. This person called Ice Cube a Candace Owens. And I'm like, you can disagree with Ice Cube on politics all you want, but Ice Cube politics is completely different than Candace Owens. But you agree with Ice Cube or not. So they replaced Candace Owens with Uncle Tom essentially. So what Presley is saying is that Vivek is part of that, is like the Indian Uncle Tom, and because he shouldn't be in political discourse. Only people who are Democrats should be. But anyway, let's continue. I'll pass to you, CJ. I know you got a lot to say.
Yeah, but I have another, I mean, just like we both do, we have agreement, and then I have an extra layer to add to this. Because what the role that Vivek is happily playing is the role that Justice Thomas plays.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a role of where they want a person, a non-white person, to be saying the things that white people want to hear about white struggle. In this instance, the white struggle. I guess they're having a struggle of racism, Nick. I guess white people are having a struggle of racism.
That's like
I
Candace
guess.
Owens,
Yeah, it's like so.
Like
I don't know Candace Owens. I don't even know what she talks about. So educate me. What does she say on this?
Point. I'll pass it to you, TJ. But the quick point is, people like Candace Owens and Vivek, they are minorities that tell white conservatives what they want to hear, and they think that we got one of the good ones, because Candace Owens, her whole thing is telling people that white supremacy is not real. White supremacy is not a real thing. Black people can rise up and overcome all that. But what she leave out, and what her audience do not know, is that Candace Owens sued successfully for discrimination in education before. She literally, and she had Al Sharpton, the NAACP, back Candace Owens for a racial discrimination suit. This is when she was like 18, 19 years old, something like that. Stabby actually did a great report on this a while ago. Candace sued some institution for racial bias and won. Like, she won a ton of money out of that. So then she turns around and says, no racism, no white supremacy anymore. It's like, the only people who believe that are these white people that just need a Negro, that need an Indian to say something that make them feel better about this country. But go ahead, CJ. I'll let you finish.
That is literally, Nick. If you eliminated that, you know how many more white people, like, their day just would not be the same, because they need to have the feeling that they're not race. They need to have that sort of framing. Now they need to,
and not only they're not racist,
explain away why they're up here and so many people of brown shading is down here. They need to explain away. Well, it's not that. It's because I'm smart. It's not that. But go ahead, Nick.
It's not only they are upset at the black Marxist leftist criticism. The reason why MLK is hated. The reason why Dr. Cornel West is being hated by liberals in the establishment. Because not only they want to deflect from their racism, they don't want to believe that their daddy and their grandparents would benefit from racism. And they generally believe that European culture and their society is awakened and much more advanced and civilized than other societies. So then when we, the black Marxists, show up, when our Latino brothers and sisters, our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters, our Hawaiian indigenous brothers and sisters, explain how this system was built on violence and is not as sophisticated as you guys think it is, and your daddy, your grandparents, your great-grandparents benefited from racism, people do not want to accept that. My daddy benefited from racism? No way! My great-granddaddy benefited from racism? No way! So not only just them, it's their whole clan, fam. They're protecting their clan, they're protecting their culture, they just don't want to admit it, even though we come with the receipts. You got genocides in your name, wealth that you guys have stolen, that you guys benefited from, right? Anyway, CJ, I'll pass to you. I didn't want to take this over.
No, those are all great points. Let's get her reaction. It says, the job of Republican candidates of color is to go out to white Republicans and say they are not racist. And the real racists are the, she's right up until this point. It's the same critique we have up until this point here, because this is what we're saying. And the real racists are the anti-racist Americans who are challenging them. So Vivek is doing his job.
CJ.
He's feeding their denial like a servant. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh my God, that's infuriating. Listen, fam.
It's a lot. It's a mouthful. That's why I wanted to get it out.
So I'll let the video play first. I'll let the video play first. I got to take on this because they're guilty of the same thing. So they are upset at Vivek for whitewashing Republican racism as you endure Jim Crow Joe. You guys see why I hate both of these people in this scenario? And that's why I got to take I have. I'm like, both of you guys suck in this scenario because both of you guys are doing something that your accurate criticism lays out. Your criticism of VVAC is spot on. But these squad sycophants don't realize that this criticism applies to them now. Shilling for Jim Crow Joe, the Nord Stream bomber, the guy who funded neo-Nazis in Ukraine, the guy who's trying to privatize water. We'll cover that here soon. The guy who's funding ICE more. The guy who's funding ICE more than Trump, $6 billion more, is somehow the racial justice candidate. But Trump, who funded ICE less, deported less people than Trump, funded the cops less than Trump, somehow you cover for white supremacy if you support him? That's why CJ, I say in this next year, in this next election year, and boy, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. I am treating Joe Biden supporters the same way they would treat us if we absurdly came out as Trump supporters. You know what I mean? That's why I had to take that, I do. But sorry, CJ.
Two things I want to say. The thing about the black upper middle class, the black elites, the black wannabe capitalists, whatever you want to say, this upper middle class blacks, everybody you see on this screen right here, there's two things to know about them. This is why they're effective agents of, there's one reason why they're effective agents of the white power structure is because they are able to articulate correctly in several instances things about poverty and racism because they may have harkened back to an historical memory decades ago. And both of these people are that. So when I say their ability to recognize that candidates of color who are mouthing sort of, you guys, America's not racist, they're here for a reason. So they identify it just like we do, Nick.
Yeah.
It's the correct identification, but there's a dual dynamic here. They're able to do that, but at the same time, if they're able to do that, Nick, they have to understand that they're being hypocrites because you're supporting Joe Biden. There's no way for you to be able to analyze this and not apply that same analytical sort of theory to Joe Biden, to Democrats. There's no way to do that unless you do that intentionally. That's why I say they know. They know, Nick. There's no way they don't know that they're being sellouts. It's just that they have changed it from being sellouts to being, in order to gain a little, you have to sell out a little. That's what they've grown to accept. So let's play the video so we can hear our reaction. It's less than a minute and a half, so less than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Let's hear what she says. Here, let me read.
Whoa, this is gonna be brutal. Look at this.
Well, you see what it says. So this is obviously.
I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at the people who are listening to. Look at these people on the. And I've seen the guy on the right. The guy on the right, I've seen a few times on MSNBC. He's the guy. He's here to sound like he's traditionally woke. And when I say woke, I mean like in the traditional black positive sense. They bring him on to play that role, but then he repeat liberal bullshit. Like this guy is so annoying. The guy on the right. But anyway, sorry. Let's play. It's gonna be.
I hate that person in that lane. I hate that person that basically talking the vernacular of the black diaspora, the African diaspora.
Yep.
They talk in that language. They're able to bring up historical, popular historical events to give them street cred, and then they go ahead and talk about some liberal shit. I hate that lane. That's like one of the worst of the sellouts, where you are real. That's like Max Frost, where you pretending to be down with Palestinians and you selling motherfuckers out. Like you're marching with them. You like in the trenches and you do it. That's the sellout of the top sellout.
I haven't seen this clip, but just watch. I've seen this guy. I know his face. I'm like, he didn't know me to the point where I'm like, oh, that's that motherfucker. But anyway, let's watch.
As he went further, continuing to talk about you on Meet the Press, and essentially blamed He said exactly. He says this. He says he thinks that creating race-based quota systems, which I think he thinks affirmative action is, which it isn't, that deny people access to goods or services based on the color of their skin, that's not the right answer to stop discrimination on the basis of race. As John Roberts said, is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And then he says that I'm genuinely worried that we're seeing a new wave of anti-Black and anti-Hispanic racism as a consequence of these so-called anti-racist movements. He's basically saying anti-racism is the reason for racist incidents. And he named you. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a very old white supremacist talking point. White supremacists have been saying for decades that.
Now, both sides do this. Now, he said more than that. But you see how they dumb down to make, I mean, I'm saying this, I think his argument is pretty bad, but to make his argument seems unintelligent. Like even the way that they're explaining it is it's like what the ruling class does about our critiques of Joe Biden. Oh, they think he's too old. It's more than that, motherfucker. But that's what you want to use as sort of the layer. Yeah. But the layer. But you get the point. I don't want to belabor the point. But let's let the clip finish. Another 45 seconds.
Anti-racist is code for anti-white, and what's also ironic is the only reason why we're even talking about him, the only reason why he even has political standing is because he has a brown skin and he's attacking Black people. And that's really his job. It's the job of Republican candidates of color to go out to white Republicans and say they are not racist, and the real racists are the people who are challenging them. And so he's doing his job. He's feeding their denial, like a servant.
You're talking to Joy-Ann Reid, sir.
What are you talking about?
You know who you're talking to? Like Jim Crow Joe, and I am willing to have this conversation with anybody as a victim of his policies, as a victim of his bankruptcy bill, for example. No one has been the most anti-Black politician in the modern era, and define that however you will. I would say that maybe since the 70s or 80s, I define that as the modern era. Let's say my lifetime, the early 90s. There have been no politician in my lifetime that has passed more anti-Black legislation and killed more Black people overseas than Jim Crow Joe. And liberals believe that Donald Trump had hurt Black people more than Joe Biden. Like, it's absurd to believe that. It's absurd to believe anyone did. The only person I would put up against Joe Biden is people like John McCain. And now liberals love those people. Isn't that funny? Anyway, go ahead, CJ.
John McCain. So I'm not playing this video, but I did want to close this segment by showing. Now, it's like what is his name? Andrew Gillum said in a debate against Ron DeSantis. I'm not calling you a racist, Ron DeSantis, but the racists believe you're a racist, Ron DeSantis. So if you don't know the Libertarian Party, I think New Hampshire, these are some of the most racist, openly racist people, and they've been called out many times by other Libertarian parties too. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. If this racist organization is saying props to you, I'm just saying, Vivek. I'm just saying. Let me read what it says. Vivek Ramaswamy calls out Ayanna, part of Ayanna Pressley, part of the modern KKK, which she is, then doubles down, which Chris Cuomo calls out for being racist. It's great to see candidates joining LPNHE in tearing down these absurd double standards. I just wanted to show that.
So I'm glad you made the point, because this is what I'm going to bring up later about libertarians speaking out against, what's that, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire? There are a lot of people that believe they're feds. The same, the same way.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
the same way that they want to sheep herd Green Party voters to the Democrat Party, the establishment right want libertarians to vote for Republicans, so they got a bunch of feds to make
it seem racist. Yeah.
Now I don't know if that's true. Now I know people who are more in tune to the libertarian movement, like my friend Pasta, for example. Misty, she has a lot of libertarian friends, and I'll stay in loop with them. A lot of these people are pretty damn sure those people are feds. But I will say that if they're not surprising. But I think they are. Like when you see their account and what they tweet, they don't even tweet like inherently libertarian shit. It's just all culture war nonsense.
They could
you know what
be.
I mean? Just
they could be
culture war nonsense. Like, and that's what kind of turns class conscious socialists and Marxists like ourselves from working with libertarians, because there is a wing of libertarians that focus way too much on the class war, which completely contradicts your politics, what you claim your politics to be. And so then this New Hampshire, and that's always been our criticism of libertarians, right, CJ? The criticism of our the Marxist left, socialists and communists generally, was libertarians are too caught up in the culture war, and they are obviously class enemies, but they are too unserious to be reliable anti-war people. So then you got the New Hampshire Libertarian Party comes out of nowhere that tried their absolute best to prove that theory correct. So
yeah, it seems like a logical theory to say that this could be some sort of front, because I do not see 99% of other libertarian accounts. I do not see this sort of way that they talk about everything. It's like they're not. When are you just talking about war? Like, you always talking about a lot of culture stuff. Go ahead.
And that's the only libertarian account I've seen repeatedly propped up by Republicans. You know what I mean? Like, so like Republican propagandists and culture warriors often will quote tweet, and that Twitter account get a ton of impressions, a ton of retweets and likes. And that's the establishment, Trump, MAGA, Republicans. And I've never seen Republicans prop up a libertarian account like that. You know what I mean? So that's why I just see nothing but evidence. I don't have no solid proof that they're feds, but we use common sense. We use critical thinking. There's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of fucking red flags, and a lot of libertarians agree with us. A lot of libertarians, they're the ones I heard this from. Like I said, for the most part. But anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, I think we can close that segment unless you had another.
I have a short segment.
Let's do that short story. Then we'll get to the main one, the AOC story.
Yeah, because I just have two short stories. Actually, I got three, but I may save the third one for later. I'm a little later on watching this, but we explained, CJ. They try to pretend they don't know RBN exists, but they know we exist, fam. They do this thing where they're looking at us, trying to pretend they're not looking at us. You know? they write articles about us, they're like, some people on the left say AOC are sellouts. They will never name us. There's a rule. You are not allowed to reference or acknowledge RBN ever. Generally, they all know who we are. I know that for a fact because a lot of these TYT and Bernie people used to follow me, fam. The same people who used to follow me now like, nigga, don't look at that nigga Nick. That nigga crazy. You know what I mean? So you want to know who finally acknowledges our existence in the most hilarious way ever? Mediaite. So they released this a few days ago. This is August 28th. And I'm like, I had to get to this. Look at who made this propaganda graft. So
what? How did I miss this? I've never, Nick.
No,
I've never heard of this before. I haven't seen this.
I'm so glad. I went to ambush you with this story, CJ. That's why I didn't tell you. This article is absolutely glorious, fam. Absolutely glorious in every way fucking possible. And this segment I'm about to do is exactly why I'm glad that we do propaganda reports, CJ. We show you guys what those psychopaths say on MSNBC and CNN, and you guys like, oh my god, these people are fucking. These people are so crazy. Why are you guys even showing us? Everyone knows these people are crazy. No, they don't, fam. When we show you guys more than Joe, I look at the chat. You guys are like as perplexed as we are when we watch this stuff. It's unbelievable the rank propaganda that you see on corporate media. So, in order to combat this loss of faith, Washington, D.C. put think tanks together, and they now rating the accuracy and the journalistic integrity and bias of cable's news network. If you look at this graph, let's see if I can zoom in some more. They got a ton of people on here. A lot of people with big names. Looking at this list,
that look like our logo.
I think we have.
There.
I think we have the lowest subscriber count on everyone on this list. But they put us on this list because these motherfuckers see and hear us, CJ. If you look at this list, we have the lowest subscriber count of people who made this list. Because we were making people like, who are these black young people that's preaching revolutionary discipline? They got mutual aid chapters, nigga. The establishment is like looking at us while not pretending to look at us. For example, they put us on the chart because they want people to know that we are the most biased piece of shit network that there is. But
wait, can you blow it up one more level? Can you go?
I'm gonna see if I can zoom
one
in
more level.
More. That's like I think that's the farthest.
If you can, I'm gonna see if I can look at my other screen and see it.
Yeah, I think I can. Let's see what I can do. Twitter is really hard. Well, this site is really hard to work with.
Oh, it's on. Yeah, it could be hard to go further. I can see it on my other screen. I just got to look at my other screen over here.
And I'm gonna explain what you see here because they outline it. I'm gonna read the article too.
Wow, I'm just looking at the top left, so I'm looking at my TV screen.
So if you guys can't see
that corner left says most extreme.
Yeah, I'm gonna explain, CJ. I'm gonna explain. Yeah, listen to this. Listen to this graph. This graph is glorious, fam. It's going in their history book. So they mix the graph in two ways, CJ. On the horizontal axis is how far you are politically and partisan wise. And in the article, they said in the modern age, we all got to acknowledge that most people have some sort of political bias. So we're going to rank this chart on people who are biased politically, but you can be biased politically while at the same time reporting on facts and not being biased and spreading propaganda. So on the top part, horizontally rank how far left you are versus far right you are. Look at who makes the farthest to the left, fam. Nigga, they like put RBN way the fuck out there. What
like
the fuck?
nobody's even touching. You see how the other ones are clustered? It's us and then one right below us. We're not touching anybody else, Nick.
Yes.
No one else is even overlapping us. They're like, put them niggas over there, over there.
They see RBN and they are horrified, CJ. They're like, nigga, we don't even know what kind of leftism this is. This is crazy. Nigga, why are we allowing these niggas to talk? This is wild. Nigga, put them on the most extreme left as possible on this graph. So now if you look at the top to bottom, and I'm gonna read a little bit of the article, they're gonna explain this. And this absolutely is a badge of honor, Matt. Absolutely. I see some of you guys comment. I can't pull all of them up, but I see you guys for the most part. This absolutely is a badge of honor. Because when you read this article, you will see what absolute kind of garbage propaganda this is. I don't want to spoil. I'm not spoiling. I want to read it to you guys. But from up to down, on the top, it shows the people, despite their bias or not, they report original reporting, high effort, and then scales like from the top, you're reputable, you tell the truth. Even if you have biases, you're not going to allow that bias to inform your reporting. That's on top, right? Now, the further you get, you have people who are not trusted. So look just above us here, just above where we rank that. They say have analysis on wide variation in reliability. So sometimes they're reliable, sometimes they are not. Then slightly above us, opinion or wide variation in reliability. So they say these are mostly people who spread opinions, but they're not really that reliable. You want to know where they put us at, CJ? We are near the bottom of the list. They hate our fucking guts, fam. Now, Leak Camp pisses them off more, right? OANN pisses them off more because it's like the far right network that liberals hate. This is definitely a liberal ass propaganda shit. And you guys will see more as I read the article. But they put us at here. This is where they put us, CJ. Selective or incomplete story, unfair persuasion, or propaganda. Fam, in the chat, they say we are selective and we have incomplete storytelling. Nigga, who's the only people telling you the truth about the Ukraine war? The history of the Ukraine war? Who's the only people telling you the history about China and Taiwan? In corporate news, they don't cover this at all. And then they say, look, this is my favorite part. We engage in unfair persuasion. We're too persuasive, CJ.
You unfair. You know what that means, Nick? Unfair persuasion. You know what that means? Effective. persuasion.
Yeah.
You're being unfair because we can't combat your truth, sir. But I'm curious, Nick. Who's at the top? Who are some of the ones?
No, I'm gonna get to that. I may be a little bit long-winded.
I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it.
I'm gonna speed it up. I'll speed it up. I'm a little bit long-winded here. I'll speed it up. But look at the last part. So we are selective. We tell an incomplete story. We engage in unfair persuasion. And the last part, we engage in propaganda. And that part, I would say I am guilty as charged because I ain't never at one point ever say that I was an unbiased journalist. I am here to represent the perspective of the working class. I am here to represent the perspective of poor Black Midwestern boys who are not represented in the media at all. So I am spreading propaganda on behalf of our community. The people are unheard. So when they hear a college dropout, person with a speech impediment speak, they're like, this is propaganda. This is craziness. This is most extreme left nonsense. Which, once again, that's the only part. The last part is the only part I would concede to. I started RBN from the very beginning. I told you guys, I am only interested in one goal. I am trying to get Black people out of the Democratic fucking party. I am trying to get as many people class conscious as possible. I want people to turn against our imperialist, capitalist government. So yes, in a sense, I engage in propaganda. In a sense,
So Nick, we have the most extreme left propaganda. I don't see nothing wrong with that title. I'll take that title. Put it on the shirt, Aaron. Put it on the shirt. RBN has the most extreme left propaganda according to Mediaite. Go ahead.
Yes, it's a fact. That's literally a fact, fam. According to Mediaite, we are the most extreme left pro-working class propaganda network there is. But I add this analysis because, they don't write about it in the article, CJ. They're like, nigga, we can't give
no references at all, no links, nothing.
Because this picture. I'm gonna read the analysis, and because the analysis explains the top part of the graph, which I'm trying not to touch on right now, because what they write about it is complete horseshit. Hold on, I gotta refresh for some reason. Here you go. So let's read this. It's not a long article. Actually, it is, but I'm gonna skim a lot of it. Here's the premise behind the story. Questions related to bias, objectivity, and accuracy in news hang over every media outlet, journalist, and news consumer. While nothing new to the news industry, understanding which news sources are reliable and in which direction they lean has been an increasingly daunting task given the mass proliferation of news outlets and the rise of infotainment. Furthermore, in a time of bad actors, misinformation, and a political class blurring the lines between statement and media figures, members of Congress hosting cable shows, for example, the question of who to trust has never been more important for the health of our democracy. So they are here to tell you who you should trust.
They're afraid. They're afraid of the narrative has been lost. They know the control of the narrative is gone, and they are trying to rein it in. This is such a badge of honor. This is such a badge.
Yeah, bro, CJ, they are terrified, fam. So they have the right wing people. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, CJ, but they have
now, Nick, do you understand? Now, do people believe that we're being suppressed?
Yes.
So they're just writing articles and calling us the most extreme left, but YouTube is not doing nothing about it. Twitter's not doing nothing about it. Do you know, Nick, I get like 50 new people who follow me on Twitter, but I've been at the same count for several months. They've been fucking with all our profiles, I get 50 new people every day. This is crazy how we're being suppressed, but we're on their radar. We are being heavily suppressed, everybody. Hit that like button. Go ahead, Nick. Hit that like button.
So Mediaite is one of the most well-known liberal media watchdog outlets. Anyone who's been paying attention know they're pretty much a Democratic Party propaganda outlet. The same way that fact checkers, like PolitiFact, worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign. The Democratic Party essentially hijacked all these fact checking and media bias websites. The Mediaite is one of them as well. Because when you read this article, they have extreme hatred for everyone on the right side of that graph as well. When you look at the right bottom, let's go to the right bottom again. And they're going to list some of these people off in this article. But look at the right bottom. So we the most extreme left. Look, they hate Alex Jones. They pay Alex Jones more than anyone. Look, Alex Jones right there. I see Jesse Waters. Because Jesse Waters goes after Hunter Biden. He went to Russia. Like, he's a big – I have no respect for the guy, but he goes after all the liberal talking points. So he's one of the people they hate. He's the new guy at Fox. Like, Fox is pushing him to be the new Tucker Carlson. I don't know how successful that is, but that's just a fact. He's the new face of the network. So they got him there. They hate his guts. They hate Lee Camp. Lee Camp is someone who they can't ignore. For some reason, they don't have The Hill Rising. They don't have breaking points on here as well. And I only noticed that because this comment here. This comment I put on the screen, that's the only reason I noticed that. That's weird. You see TYT? They pretend TYT is fucking left, right? The only part about that that's accurate is hyper partisan left, but they're not left. But I see what they're saying. But you guys see ONN, the most far right is also hated the same way we are. They see us, fam, and they are terrified. So to fight this new wave of independent media, you got Mediaite, you got Fact Checker, PolitiFact. All these people are waging war on independent media, especially extreme, far left, dangerous media outlets like RBN. I can't wait to start saying that. RBN, the most far left.
I know. That's our title. That's our title. That's our new subtitle right there.
Yeah. So listen to this absolute garbage. So I mentioned earlier in a bit that I own being a working class propagandist. Like I'm advocating for my community unapologetically. Every segment I do skews towards the working class because that's how all politics is, in my opinion. Right? So I own that. But what makes this so comical and make this, ironically, the highest form of propaganda is they say we are a malicious, ranked version of propaganda, but MSNBC and Fox News, CNN, especially CNN, is the most reputable news organization. Look, MSNBC comes in third place with a 31 reliability rating.
What?
So here they are pretending that CNN, Fox News Nation, MSNBC, look how much higher on the graph they are than we was. Like we was around right here. They view MSNBC, CNN, these people who we dismantle every episode. This is exactly why we do propaganda report, because we show you guys how ridiculous what they say is so absurd that you guys in the comments be watching in horror. Like how anyone can fall for this. But according to Mediaite, these are the real truth tellers in political discourse. Now, I'm going to wrap my segment up soon because I don't want this to be too long. But look at these next two paragraphs. Especially the second one is unbelievable. Especially consider how much propaganda report we have done. So, listen to this. Looking at different hours of cable news television shows, the disparity within the cable news network when it comes to reliability. The morning shows, for example, chart as more reliable than the networks as a whole. So listen to CJ.
Joe?
No, yeah, this part literally, my floor hit the ground like a cartoon. Like I flipped my shit when I read this article, this part here. Let's listen to this part. Fox and Friends charted at 30.7 for reliability, higher than Fox overall. Morning Joe, skimming a little bit ahead, MSNBC Morning Joe is the most reliable of the top three cable news. What? They gave Morning Joe a 36.8 for mix of fact reporting and analysis or simple fact reporting. Fam.
Well, you know that just calibrates this whole article. It's flipped, everybody. So what the stuff that they're saying that we fall into the category is the stuff that Morning Joe and the stuff they're saying about Morning Joe at the top. is us. You flip this.
Yep.
That's all this does. You're calibrating us. This article by telling us about Morning Joe scoring the highest. Get the fuck out of here.
If you guys don't believe it, I know you guys watch RBN, so you guys seen our Morning Joe segments. They are the funniest segments that we do. They are beyond parody, and they are rank propaganda. Especially they're just seeing this Ukraine segment. I just saw on CNN. CNN is ranked as highly reliable. MSNBC had another China segment, fear mongering China. Every single one of the foreign policy segments, we can't even get through 2 sentences without explaining to you guys why what they are saying is propaganda. And I am not exaggerating. When I don't stop the video, I could. I just don't. Every sentence that they say is coordinated, programmed lies to get you to support the pro-war position. But according to Mediaite, they are the most reliable, fact-based reporting. Meanwhile, RBN, who report on the Banderite neo-Nazis in Ukraine, the same thing that MSNBC and CNN used to talk about before the war, we are spreading propaganda and we are telling an incomplete story, CJ. So when Morning Joe tells you guys about Taiwan, they're telling you the whole story, even though they never bring up the one China policy. Me, who explained to you strategic ambiguity, the one China policy, I explained to you guys the history of how the United States had to acknowledge Taiwan to get on diplomatic relationships after they split in the early 70s. You had Taiwan that was part of China for hundreds of years that they originally lost because of Japanese imperialism. They never, ever told you guys that on any of these shows. But RBN is the channel that's telling you an incomplete story and misleading, according to Mediaite. Once again, this is a great honor because you can take this table and flip it. Alex, listen to this. Rachel Maddow scored a 36th.
What?
Fact-based reporting. You know the person who literally said in court that she's an entertainer that no one should take seriously. So Mediaite claims they're a non-affiliated, a nonpartisan group. That's why I say this segment is hilarious because, ironically, they're engaging in the highest form of propaganda in this article because they are being partisan propaganda sacks. Because if you read this whole article, I'm sparing you guys time here because actually they explain every person they list here. But listen to this. Hannity, which I will agree with, has a reliability rating of only 19, putting it in propaganda territory. But Rachel Maddow is literally 2 times more reliable than Hannity, according to the Mediaite. What? So Hannity propaganda, Rachel Maddow facts. This is just Democratic Party propaganda. And if you read the whole article, that is literally what it is. I try to find, this is one part I want to read where they really go after Jesse Waters. Because they do the same thing with when you look at Jesse Waters, here he is. He Jesse Waters pretty much as badass OAN. This last part I read, I'll move on. Because you can see the disdain, right? They gave Chris Cuomo a 30, which is reliable. They're yeah, Chris Cuomo a little bit biased. They're Chris Cuomo's a little bit biased. We give him a -5 on bias. He's just a little biased.
Chris Cuomo, the one that got fired?
Joy Reid fared a bit better. She's 23% reliable, fam. Joy Reid. They acknowledge that Joy Reid is crazy biased, though. They gave her a -20. Where's -20 on the chart? So Joy Reid on the chart, well, that part broke, is around. Yeah, she's not anywhere near where we at, and not anywhere near. She's just skimming this again. She's the one that they admit is the most biased. They gave Chris Hayes a -18. But other than that, every single news show, Anderson Cooper's -13, they acknowledge that he's a liberal. But every single person that they acknowledge as being a left-wing bias, they give high reliability scores. Anderson Cooper, 38. Dude, that's sky high on this graph. Sky high.
Anderson Cooper? The guy that went
now,
after
sorry,
West? Go ahead.
I'll wrap this up soon because I don't want this to be too long. Fox News, Jesse Waters, primetime. They hate him, remember. They hate Jesse Waters and his aligned right. These are the people that go after Hunter Biden. I see him very aggressively going after Democrat talking points, using MAGA talking points. They hate that guy. Like, he's the new Tucker Carlson. Like, he's not as he's an order of magnitude less significant, but he's like the Jesse Waters version of Tucker Carlson, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I totally get it.
Jesse Waters charted a low 16 reliability. That's around where we at. So they view RBN as the same level as Jesse Waters in terms of reliability.
This is rank propaganda. This is rank propaganda for you to say literally two of this. What did we say before this? So people can't say we're just making this up for this article. We've said this in many streams going back a year. There's top propagandists. Morning Joe is one of them. We said that Rachel Maddow was another, and we said that Tucker Carlson. These are top 3 propagandists, and 2 of them, they're saying they tell the truth. Like, that is so telling. I don't need to know anything about the funding of Mediaite. Your ranking of these liars tells me all I need to know, regardless of who's funding you.
Look at David Pakman. They got a lot of respect for David Pakman. I didn't see this earlier. Look at that. David Pakman is up there. Yes, David Pakman is, according to them, about 3 times more reliable and trustworthy than we are. Fam. Like, we did maybe 2 or 3 propaganda. We haven't touched David Pakman that much, but the few times we did touch David Pakman, we literally were just laughing at how childlike his worldview
bad
was.
at it.
He's a bad propagandist, but he has the respect of the establishment, fam. They put him up there with Rachel Maddow. Look, they're right next to each other. Holy shit. Who else got their flowers by the establishment? They think TYT is good. They got TYT is around the same where Alex Wagner is at. Now that I look at this graph again, it's very interesting. I want to
is Jimmy Dore on there or
no? Oddly enough, he's not. I don't see Jimmy. Oddly enough, I don't see Jimmy, Russell Brand. Maybe they just blacklisted overall.
I think they just blacklisted.
I think they just straight up blacklisted. They just. I think this article was written as a warning about us. You know what I mean? Yo, we were just hoping they would go away. We was hoping these motherfuckers just give up. We thought they would get squashed by the algorithm. We thought they would be stuck at 5,000 subscribers. These niggas are not stopping. These niggas got chapters now. Nigga, let's make an article and let these niggas know how fucking crazy and dangerous they are. So mark it down. Let's go down in the history books. RBN, according to Mediaite, who's quoted by everybody, the most extreme left-wing working class propaganda out there, fam.
That's us.
Anyway,
yeah, all right. We'll get to the next story. Actually, let's read a couple of super chats so we don't have a ton at the end. Let me see. Hold on, I gotta switch my screens. Let me see. I can't even see how many. Do we have any?
Biden.
Oh, we got 5. Yeah, I put some up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We have quite a few solidarity ones. I'll put those up for first thing for the 499. Yoi, it's Matt. Thank you for that. Another 2 more solidarity super stickers. One from M Sparks. We appreciate that. And we have a new member as well. Big shout out to you. Hey, you're a Vickman. Became a YouTube member. Appreciate that. And this is our super chat from the same guy who left a solidarity super sticker. So thank you for the other super chat. We need young black leaders like Nick and CJ to run for office and save this country from itself. Take my money and start this revolution. You guys see my hotspot videos that had Dr. Cornel West and horror, right? I don't have the temperament for that. And I would never, and things, I don't know how good a politician I would be, because politicians have to do that fake shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That Marianne Wilson does. When I asked Marianne Wilson why should working class people donate to you, she's like, well, if you don't believe in that, just don't vote for me. My thing is, and this is the biggest thing that holds me back from running, I don't believe that I can start a revolution by running. You know what I mean? Like, if I ran, will I really change your material needs and conditions? Like, can I really ask for you to assume that I'm going to change the position? So how good of a pitch is that, CJ? And they be like, hey, Nick, why are you running? I'm like, I'm trying to start a revolution. You know? I mean, I don't think I can overthrow it by running, but shit. I don't think that's my role. You know what I mean? I never rule anything out, but I just don't think it's my role. I think this being more radical, be on the ground. I have a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing the last RBN Kansas City event. I want to be more of the person on the ground, right? So maybe like we said that you can run campaigns doing that. So once again, you never know. But I don't have the hubris that a lot of people do, like Marianne and these ego maniacs that like, I'm the one. You know what I mean? Dr. Cornel West at least was a respected leader, intellectual that was respected by people on the left all throughout the world. And then in his late age, after people asked him about his entire life, after seeing the desperate situation we're in, he's like, oh shit, I'm getting older, might as well run and give people hope, right? Not in that position. I'm humble enough to admit that. So that's my answer. And that's just my general out loud thoughts about when people ask me to run, like, who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? Can I really tell you guys to donate to me thinking I'm gonna beat fucking Manuel Cleaver? Manuel Cleaver is just tight and supported by all these giant capitalists and real estate developers. So I don't know if I can do that. But anyway, I appreciate the sentiment. I mean, it shows that you think highly of us, and I appreciate that. But I gotta keep it real with you guys. Yeah. Like, will I really change your life? Like, if I ran for Congress right now, will I change your life? Will I be better? Wouldn't I be better off just doing Kansas City mutual aid? Will I change more people? Like these are things I think about. Like that. And so when I see people run like Marianne and RFK Jr. and they don't even consider these things that keep me humble, I look at them side-eyed. Like, you don't even consider. I asked Marianne about the resources thing. She's like perplexed by this stuff. Like the PMC is perplexed by this stuff. And I'm like, this stuff I think about. Like, I'm gonna run. If I run, I'm gonna go on the RBN Navy stream. I actually got it for money. Like, yeah, I'm running for Congress. I need you guys to donate. Will I do that thinking I'm actually gonna change your life? Like, can I do that? These things the PMC class don't even think about. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm ranting now. Go ahead, CJ.
Because it's unfeathered money. That's what you do. Or unlimited, I should say. Here's a good comment. I don't know the depths of what this means as far as
I'm sure they got receipts all over the place. Yeah, like when you read this article, and if you guys are interested, this article came out 3 days ago. It's pretty easy to find. Just search cable news bias and media. It'll pull it up pretty quickly. I skimmed that part, but when you read it, you will really get a sense of how this is literally just DNC, same political fact check, Washington Post fact check bullshit here. Where they're essentially saying everyone who's on the right and everyone who's socialist, Marxist left, don't trust them. The only people they can really trust are Democrat media like MSNBC and CNN. Or you also can trust the Fox News hosts that point you to the other party duopoly. You can trust those two people. But anyone who's talk about stuff outside of the approved two-party duopoly narrative, one of the reasons why they hate Jesse Waters is because he talks about Ukraine. Like, he tells the truth about Ukraine, for example. And that's one of the reasons why they hate him. I actually had to look at this graph again. I bet you, like, you see Lee Camp, they hate him more than us. Like, Lee Camp is rated lower than us in terms of reliability, which shows how they hate him more.
Because he talks about it.
Let me put it back. I'll put it just real quick. I bet you, if you look at every single person at the bottom here, it's the people who got Ukraine right. Like, maybe here's TYT. So maybe the cutoff is like right where we at. I don't know about that one. Let's see. Maybe these right wing networks get it right. Some of these right here, Lee Cam get it right. I think the only reason they put TYT this low is because they hate Cenk Uygur. They hate that motherfucker. But anyway, sorry, I'll pass it to you, CJ. We can move on.
Well, they don't like him. The establishment doesn't like him because he advocates for progressive, challenging the corporate Democrats. So there's a layer of why they would not like him at the same time, knowing that he's a tool to keep progressives in the Democratic Party. I can see that duality.
This is funny. It said the chart has RBN way to the post-duopoly left. And isn't that funny? We started the post-duopoly leftists, and then the Mediaite and the Democrat propaganda channels, they see that and they're like, oh my God, this is a stream. They are advocating going outside the two parties. Put them on the most extreme.
That's essentially what happened.
Perspective? That says everything. Last super chat I see that came in, another one from Matt. You can basically be what we thought AOC and Bernie was going to be. They lack the courage of their convictions. You don't. That's the difference. Absolutely. I'm not saying there's not value in it. The same value that Dr. Cornel West running in the Green Party as a movement building person. I think we all got different roles in our movement. I don't have the hubris to ask to be an elected candidate, especially when I don't believe that's going to lead to real revolutionary change. Like when I tell you guys that I only believe in engaging in electoral politics at around 15% of our energy, that's like mostly ballot initiative shit, fam, and then advocating for third parties. So if I believe that we should only spend 15% of our energy on electoral politics, how can I then spend all my time running a campaign? I don't know, man. These are just more open out loud thoughts. But anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So we got a couple of our super chats. I think we read all of them that were there. So let's move to the thumbnail topic, and then we got a couple other topics, smaller stories after that. But the thumbnail topic of today is this article that kind of talks about another article. Its title is let's see, do I have the title? Yeah. I'll put the title there for Aaron, but let's start here, Aaron. And it's AOC brags about her transformation into a loyal agent of U.S. imperialism. And I did take a couple of snippets, Nick, before we get into the article and read the whole thing. I did take a couple of snippets to kind of read before we get into it. And here's the first sort of excerpt that I got out of the article. And just to kind of preface the article a little more, this, like, it feels like, Nick, we've been taught in the last 6 months to a year, we've been talking about the squad, AOC, Bernie Sanders, that group of people, and failing at something more often. We've been talking about a shift. Nina Turner not being able to get reelected twice. AOC being protested on. All of the squad, all of the members being protested on. Like, so it's an actual shift, and it's palpable. The DSA losing 10,000 plus members over a year last year. Like, it's so, you can feel it. But go ahead, Nick. You're gonna say something.
CJ, just real quick to your point. One of the reasons why we cover this a lot is because I am of the belief that the betrayal of Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad is something that should anger the working class way more and should be a way bigger story. The reason why it's not a big story is because they did something that the establishment supports and agree with. They love that AOC and Bernie did this. But to me, this is a giant deal. Like, I've seen people that say Bernie committed one of the biggest frauds since Barack Obama. That's not newsworthy? Like, you got this guy collected $400 million of working class money. Now he's doing commercials on his YouTube channel for Joe Biden. How is that not news? That's a giant political shift. And now the corporate media is just now getting caught up to this, CJ. Like, this may be the second time I've seen an article like this year. For the first time, we've seen the establishment like, man, AOC, we really don't got a reason to be scared of her like we thought we did. Like, AOC she's not that bad. You know, AOC actually kind of a sellout now we think about it. Like, this is like the second time they are forced to admit something that we've seen years ago. Anyway, I'll let you continue, CJ.
Yeah, so as you can see at the top there, it says the prostration of Democratic Socialists of America, Congresswoman AOC, I'll just abbreviate, to the Democratic Party and Biden administration was on display yet again in an interview published Wednesday on the New York Times. And I don't know how I missed this article. Did I miss this article?
I saw it. I was just locked out of New York Times, so I was hoping for an article like this to pop up and summarize it. But on New York Times, they had an article called "The Evolution of AOC," and as you're gonna read here, and there's been like a few of these stories. Like I said, this is like the second one I've seen pop up this year. It's like a wink and a nod to each other, because you guys know when you read the New York Times, it's the establishment talking to each other. When you watch Morning Joe, Morning Joe is news for the establishment and not for us. So when they do these stories, they're like, "Hey guys, AOC on our side now." Just in case you're not just in case you're not caught up to speed, that's what this story is about. To let liberals know that, hey, you don't have to be as mean and vicious to AOC as you used to be, because they're on our side now. Anyway, let's continue, CJ.
Okay, so yeah, I found the story and I'm locked out too. Like, this is crazy. This is such a freaking weird thing that we have to pay for news. That just think about that where we are as a society. Just ridiculous. But all right, so let's read the article. So I can't pull it up. I was gonna pull it up to just kind of reference it, but I pulled it up and the ad block came up. So let's continue. So it's referencing that article, The Evolution of AOC. Funny because I covered another article. I think it was through Jacobin. It had the same title.
I need to get a link to that article. I need to get like a link that bypassed the paywall, because I can't wait to actually see it. Someone eventually gonna do a breakdown, because it's paywall to help. Eventually someone's gonna do a breakdown of what she said. But anyway, this article, I think I read. I think this article does a good job summing up.
Yeah, it breaks it down a lot. But if anybody has any ideas how to get bypast this, put it in the chat. I don't mean for now, but for maybe future, Nick and I can use it in the future. To bypass these paywalls. All right, so but let's read. The interview titled "The Evolution of AOC" was conducted to give AOC a platform to defend herself from what she called a growing suspicion among workers and young people that she is nothing but a standard Democratic Party.
That's
politician.
A great.
I'm going to pause here. Because that almost, I mean, I'm just saying this, I'm being hyperbole. That almost makes me want to get a damn membership from New York Times, because who is she speaking to when she's going to the New York Times to try to get pity? Do real radical people read New York Times, or does the middle of the road liberal read it? So she's going, look, guys, they're coming after me. Please save me. You get what I'm saying? So, I mean, but she's going there now. This first little sentence is a lot, and you sort of side about it too, because look what this first sentence says. She's going to what, Nick? One of the biggest newspapers to say, hey, she's getting she's being affected by our critique. I don't mean literally RBN's critique, but like I always say, it feels different, Nick. It doesn't feel like this is the normal, oh, I'm disappointed. This feels different. And to me, this is evidence that this is different. They saying, wait a minute. Yeah, we typically do something bad. A few months later, they're back on our side after we tweet Medicare for all. But we tweeted Medicare for all, and these motherfuckers in our replies still calling us out. This shit ain't the same. So she's going on here to say, I need to plead our case because we have really lost a lot of ground here. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's that, and that's why I said I like this paragraph, because my initial take was because you mentioned who reads the New York, who reads this stuff, right? Like I think this is the establishment initiation, letting their readers and their class know that AOC is one of them. But go back up to that paragraph. There it is right there, because she was interviewed and given a platform to defend herself from what she called a growing suspicion among workers and young people that she's nothing but a standard Democratic Party politician. So I'm gonna ask you guys this question: why now, fam? Because there have been harsh criticisms of AOC, and I'm being very lenient here, since at least Forced to Vote, and there was a lot since before that. But let's sanctify Forced to Vote as the time when AOC started getting vitriolic, quote unquote, violent hate, right? Now it's to the point where they see her approval rating numbers. They see that AOC is as unpopular as Hillary Clinton. You think the New York Times editors and these liberal New York Times journalists who do nothing but spend their time on Twitter don't see us roasting AOC every fucking day? So the reason why I say this is significant, that paragraph made me look at this differently. This is a giant W for us. Again, you guys know how polls are like, you know how they use polls and a lot of those report as their grade card, right? Yeah. So the New York Times and these institutional media outlets acknowledging that the left is turning against AOC is them acknowledging that we are so loud they can't ignore it. They're like, hey, AOC, I thought you was why the fuck you lose to Jimmy Dore and RBN left? What the fuck going on here? I thought you was a radical. So CJ, a lot of them are legitimately confused. Because they like, I thought that AOC was cool with them. I looked on Twitter. I saw that. I saw you trending, nigga. RBN was roasting you. that CJ guy was, or Jimmy was roasting you, all the people was roasting you. So they brought her on and gave her an interview like, hey, you want to defend what the fuck is going on here? I thought you was, and so that paragraph is great. She didn't think about it like that at first. To defend herself, that's a key part. Being my past to you, that's a great point. I actually didn't consider that before, but go ahead, let's continue.
No, I agree. That is a great point made. Her weak attempts to justify her right-wing role in Congress only confirmed those suspicions are correct. And quote, do you see yourself as more of an insider now? End quote.
Jesus Christ. They know, CJ. That's a question they would not ask AOC if AOC was not being hammered by the RBN left, the Harlan's media, the due dissonance, the Black Agenda reports, you know what I mean? The Black Power media. If we was not hammering them, imagine if we liked what AOC was doing. They wouldn't be like, you're an insider, nigga. They would still consider her an outsider. But they see her getting rejected by us. So then they ask her, do you see yourself more of an insider now? Since you sold those people out over there who hate your guts now? Anyway, sorry, let's go.
And of course, she has to.
I got to the New York Times for a month. I probably got to get a free trial.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I feel like, man, I almost want to pay for it just for
They got a free trial. They got a free trial for like a week.
Just to see this article, or if anybody knows a way. You know who I always see post a free version of the article of the New York Times? A Jamu. But it's always like some other site, and then it says New York Times. So obviously this other site. Yeah, we got to get that link. But anyway, let's continue here because they do talk about what's in the article enough for us to know part of what's in it enough to discuss. But let's continue. Do you see yourself as more of an insider now? Asked the New York Times interviewer Lulu Garcia Navarro. And here's the quote. Quote, I don't think so. I mean, that's so AOC. I mean, she says that all the time. I don't think so.
Oh, no, read it like that. I read it in her voice. I literally read it in her voice now because you said it.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, once you're engaged as a legislator, you're on the inside. I can definitely see her say to translate this outside energy to internal change. I can definitely see her saying this.
That's her. Now, let's take a step back here and let's go back to our English class. And here's an indication that a person is about to tell you a word salad or has a jumbled thinking. Let's count the number of commas in one sentence, Nick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look like this shit. That's how you know because it's not a complete thought. So they have to put a comma because it's not a complete thought. So we already know we're on the ride. We're going to be going on a ride here. So let's listen.
It's funny because you got to realize interviews always sound better on paper like this. Because if you ever like read an interview versus watch it, sometimes they be like, well, actually, I've been a president of this company for a long time. But if you read it, it would say, I've been a president for this company for a long time. So they making her look better with the text, but you can still tell she's struggling.
It's still
That's
struggling.
Hilarious.
It's still struggling because I get what you're saying. I could say like this, do you see yourself as an insider? I could have said it, do you see yourself as an insider? You get what I'm saying? But they don't put commas for that. If they're putting commas,
that's how you know.
In real life, that shit was a struggle. In real life, that shit was a struggle. So let me read it. It says, I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, that's that Marianne Williamson. Look at it one way. Once you are engaged as a legislator, so this is literally what she just did, Nick. She says, I don't think so, meaning no. And then she says, but on the other hand, maybe yes. That's what she's saying here. That's the same thing that Marianne Williamson says.
On one hand, I like to think of myself as a rebel, but on the other hand, technically, I am. Jesus Christ, dude.
Okay, so go ahead.
Now I was just thinking, like, dude, if we had an RBN account for New York Times, everybody to build, imagine how many of these fucking articles that we could just fucking roast. Anyway, let's continue. Like,
that's how they're keeping us out. That's the next thing. We gotta raise money to get a membership to the New York Times and the Washington Post, because those are clear top propaganda networks. Yeah,
We can do a
and-
service so you guys can see the bullshit that they're saying without paying for it. So
right.
I don't know. I might consider it because imagine the propaganda report we had to do. If we can read some New York Times Ukraine stories because I see them, I just can't click them. They be saying
we
the
can't
titles
click
be
'em.
crazy as fuck. I'm like, man, I can't even.
They be
break this
wanting
shit
you
down.
to click on it. Yeah, you be like, damn, I know that's a good article based
Right,
on.
I knew I was fucking wrong. Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think about it, man. But anyway, let's
Yeah.
continue.
So all right. So where was it? Right here. So here, let me read again what she's saying. I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, once you are engaged as a legislator, you are on the inside. AOC replied, adding that being on the inside allows her to translate this outside energy into internal change. In order to have outside energy, Nick, don't you actually have to engage with the people on the outside? She didn't engage in no Medicare for all. She didn't engage in no forced to vote.
Exactly.
So what are you talking about? But you notice the pivot. She goes, no, I'm not. She clearly uses the phrasing to say I'm not. And then, Nick, she explains how she is the opposite without saying, yes, I am. You get what I'm saying? She explains it without saying it. Yes, I am. And then she goes, and then she tries to move on. Yeah, I'm an insider, but I'm an insider because I'm going to use that outside energy to
that's bullshit.
That's what she's trying to
because they're not the only outsiders that they work with are people who do DNC approved actions. So you're gonna see AOC with Gen Z for change, right? But are you seeing AOC with Jerome and Tour for the Poor? Why aren't you seeing AOC at Julian Assange rallies, anti-war rallies? They only work with the DNC approved outsiders. Anyway, let's continue, CJ.
Yes. It is becoming increasingly obvious that AOC's role in Congress has been not to translate left-wing opposition into internal change. It has been to suffocate outside energy and translate it into support for the Democratic Party and facilitate its right-wing policies. Nick, I must say about this article, they got some of these sections are just excellent writing, and this is one of them because this is Eric London. Eric London. Take it with a grain of salt. It's Eric London, the one that Sabby interviewed, but still, this particular one is written well because
Eric London has a ton of bad takes, but we all acknowledge that just because someone has a bad take on something, don't mean they can't get some things right. So I will say, like, I didn't know who wrote this article, but he's without a doubt nailing this article. But Eric London is very fucking problematic in a lot of ways. But go ahead, CJ.
And Nick, when I was using the articles from the World Socialist website, when I wasn't even looking at the author, it was Eric, and we were covering it. But what all the articles that we always cover, guess what they were about? He's excellent on his critique of the squad on progressive Democrat narrative, and those are the only articles we read.
Yeah, he's good on that. Yeah,
he's excellent on that.
He's good on that the same way that I will acknowledge that RFK is good on Ukraine. RFK, we can do RFK Ukraine segments all day. He's fucking fantastic on that issue. Asking about other shit though, we're like, Zionism, Syria, Iran, that would shit get squirrely. Reparations, but he's great on Ukraine. That's what Eric London is on the squad, and
he's great on the squad. He's great. But I love this because it's increasingly obvious that her role in Congress is not to translate. This is what people are waking up. You ain't translating no leftist energy. You're not doing that. What she's here to do is suffocate outside energy and translate it into support. No. I know you're upset that that Joe Biden didn't do $15 minimum wage and he blamed it on the parliament. Yeah. We're big mad, but he's the most progressive president. He's way more progressive than a senator. He's way more. He did this, and that. You see how you're translating it?
I'll be right back
into a Democratic support. Yeah, go ahead. And I'm going to continue with the article here. Now, at this point, AOC has abandoned even verbal criticism of the Democratic leadership. So she doesn't even chime in at all. And this is something, you've heard this from our channel, from Jimmy Dore, from everybody on the left, except for the NATO left. that she hasn't been chiming in on the Democratic leadership. She declared last year that she would, quote, put aside differences with top Democratic officials in the name of party unity, and recently endorsed Joe Biden, saying, quote, the president has been doing a very good job so far, end quote. Just a lie. This amounts to a blanket endorsement of the defining features of his presidency. And this is the same sort of, this is the same way, like, I think we here at RBN would describe it, is that, or we have described it, is that when you're giving Joe Biden, the neoliberalism, the Biden administration, the Democrats, these high marks, what are you really saying? And this is what he's saying. You're really saying is you're giving a blanket endorsement for some of the things that the Joe Biden presidency is doing, including, and I'll go back to the article, including reckless war against Russia and the premature declaration that I guess I could say this part. The corona pandemic is over. If it talks about the corona shit, you guys already know YouTube already got us on something. So I'm not gonna go there anymore. So I'll just kind of side talk about it. Another good news, we got those strikes. We appealed both of the strikes, and one of them was removed like the next day. And recently, the second one was removed like a couple of weeks ago. So both of them have been removed. We're trying now to get a warning we got on our channel removed, and then it'll be spotless. So right now it's just a warning. It's not a strike, but a warning for something else. It was a Jon Stewart video when we broke down something he did, I think with Hillary Clinton. We broke down. But yeah, I see you back, Nick. So now, this is some of the parts that I was going to read on, or I did read on Twitter, so it's a rehash. The Times asked AOC why the Congresswoman... Oh, no, I didn't read this part. I'm sorry. I decided to read it from here. Listen to this. This is one of the excerpts I posted on Twitter, Nick. The Times asked AOC why the Congresswoman believes, quote, those on the left... So understand, they're trying to question, are they really on the left? That's why they put that in quotes. It's like, well, if they're critiquing you, are they on the left? That's what they're kind of trying to do right there. Yeah. Continue to, quote, accuse you. This is another quote, accuse you of compromising on your progressive ideas as you work within the party system. So that's also in quotes, because it's challenging. How are you compromising your progressive ideas? Challenging that. They don't want to give validity to that, any of that, even in their writings. And they're quoting the New York Times is what they're doing here. She said, now this is her response, Nick, to our criticism. And understand, to what we've been saying, it's literally us, RBN. You saw us on Mediaite. They know it's us, Nick. So we now, Nick, moving forward, we now can say without question, they are literally talking about RBN. We can say that
now you guys know we're not delusional. That's why I'm so glad I saw that chart. I had like few people message me that. And I'm glad I caught you with that blind, because it's a fucking fact. I'm about to tweet it out right now. I'm about to tweet the chart out.
Yeah, we need to save that as an important receipt. Anytime somebody, what are you talking about? Nobody cares. Really? Here's Mediaite. What are you talking about? So I'm going to be bringing that up as a receipt going forward. Right, so, let's continue. She said left-wing criticisms are, this is her description of it, because we haven't really had a political presence like this in the United States before. I don't even know what that even means, Nick. I don't even know. So she's getting criticized. I guess maybe she's saying the left is waking up, and that's the presence. We've never had the left waking up. We've never had RBN challenging the NATO left narratives. So now we have people criticizing us because we have RBN and Jimmy Dore and Convo Couch and Misty and several others who are calling us out. So this is the critique. And she goes on to say, and her criticism and her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. Can you break this?
That's
let me
absurd.
finish it. Yeah,
I saw that quote. That's a quote I actually saw without reading the article, because that's the part that a lot of people took. They said AOC said her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. No, fam, you corrupt piece of shit. So what we said many times on here before, if AOC and Bernie Sanders tried to force a vote on Medicare for all, if they did their best to block Ukraine war funding, if they tried their best to stop Biden from preventing the rail strike and calling it out, etc., if they did everything we criticized them not to do, and they failed, there wouldn't be this hatred. You know what I mean? We'd be like, all right, patch yourself up. Let's go. Let's strategize and see what the next thing we're going to do then. You know what I mean? If they intended to march for Medicare for all, they did all these things we wanted them to do, and we didn't get Medicare for all, do you think we will roast them? No, we're like, all right, let's figure out what the next step is. You know what I mean? So we're not bewildered by the process of power. Like this clown AOC says, we are bewildered by her inability to wield it at all, and her inability to accept any suggestions from the people she claims she represents. The only people she takes suggestions from is Nancy Pelosi when she grabs her ass and tells her to vote president on the Iron Dome. That's the suggestion she listens to. She don't even listen to what we say. Like, could RBN and Jimmy Dore, could we roast AOC if AOC followed our advice and failed? No, she was empowered one of us. It'd be no different if one of us failed on an endeavor. At that point, we are bewildered by their inability to wield power and their inability to work with outsiders because they despise us. But anyway, let's continue, CJ.
And I'm going to shout this out now. Nick, we have such a base freaking community. Somebody tag me.
We got a community of the most far left extreme community.
Yes.
The most far left extreme community. But anyway, go ahead.
Somebody tag me on Twitter with the article where you can get it unblocked. So we're going to get to the actual article in just a second, just to read a little bit of it. So we have the New York Times article. That's basically what I'm saying. We have access to it now. Somebody tag me on the unblocked version of it. Great. So thank you for that, our community. And let me read some more of this article, and then we'll just bring up the other one just to see if it's anything bombshells in it that we need to cover. She said, I'm sorry, let me continue down here. Actually, I do want to read this again. She said left-wing criticisms are because we haven't really had a political presence like this in the United States before, and her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of what they're saying. Not that I agree. Do you understand what she's saying? That we are criticizing her because we haven't really had political presence like this in the United States before, and we are bewildered with the possibility of power. I don't understand the logic in what they're saying here.
This is something that you can only say when you know there's no follow-up question coming. Because I wouldn't even respond to what you said. Like, what does this have to do with you voting for Ukraine war funding? What does this have to do with you helping Biden break the rail strike? You guys don't understand the complexities of me wielding power. What does you having power have to do with the fact that you gave weapons to Nazis in Ukraine? You had the power to not do that. So this goes back to the criticism that people don't even understand about RBN. A lot of the hatred that we have from Bernie Sanders and Democrats is not what they don't do for us. Oh my God, no, the Democrats not doing enough for us. Oh no, that's not us.
No.
Then the Democrats are funding the police state. The Democrats are war criminals. They are waging class war on the workers. That is the difference between our analysis versus everyone else, versus TYT, versus Kyle Kulinski, Breaking Points, you name them. Their criticism of the Democratic Party is, why won't the Democratic Party give us $15 minimum wage, CJ? Nigga, my criticism that Joe Biden is literally busting unions. It's different. We're not built the same. That's why we're the most far left. That's why we're the most far left pro-working class media propaganda outlet in the country, according to Mediaite. because we have a completely different criticism. How would AOC even respond to that? She's on RBN in an alternate reality, and she's giving me this word. Like, you guys don't understand the complexity of what do you having power to do with the fact that you keep voting with Joe Biden? Absolutely not, goddamn. That is an absolutely ridiculous excuse. Anyway, let's continue.
Yes, and it goes on here. I think over time there's been an inherent association between power, assent, and quote unquote selling out. Wait, so she's saying this is a word salad. I'm trying to break it down. I think she's saying just the fact that she's getting promotions, people are equating that with selling out. Like, how can you be getting these establishment positions if you're not selling out? She's trying to say it's not based on material things she's done, votes or anything. It's based on just the fact, oh, they see me, ascending in power, so they obviously think this must be something. There's a sellout, and that's what she's trying to say here. And I'll read the quote again. I think over time there's been she's trying to say it's an inherent association between power and assent and quote unquote selling out. She said, referencing a belief that there's no way in this country you can accrue any kind of power without there being some Fostation compromise. This is her. She can only sell this to somebody without a brain. This is the professional managerial class trying to act like people are stupid, Nick. That's what she's trying to do here. Yeah, that's what she's trying to do here.
Dumb left that Anna Kasparian, Tom Hartman, Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar. We explained to you guys many times. They're here to cultivate a dumb left. And that's the left that AOC knows she's appealing to at this point. Brain broken suburban wine moms. But anyway, CJ, you can continue.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'll read it up there on the screen. A Fosting compromise is a pact whereby a person trades something of supreme moral or superior importance for something worldly or material benefit. Trade something of superior moral and spiritual importance for something worldly. Okay, but unlike the heroes of Marlowe and Getto, I don't know how to, I think I'm saying this, Goat, who sold his soul to the devil, Ocasio-Cortez has very little to sell in the first place, and she does have very little to sell. She did not, as she claimed in the interview, quote, come from a background of direct action and activism, and she has no political principles to portray. She was an intern in the Foreign Affairs Office of Democratic Senator Ted Kennedy and started a career in the Democratic Party politics. She was picked by the Democratic Party group brand new Congress in 2017 as a candidate and joined DSA only after she was vetted in order to boost her left bona fides. So, Nick, I always thought she started out as a left activist and then she just kind of fell into the Democratic Party politics. You're telling me it's the other way around?
Yeah, that's why
she was a Democrat establishment, and then she just kind of, in order to create her brand, she decided, oh, let me just be the left brand. But go ahead, Nick. You were going to say something.
It's one of the things that the Bernie Sanders left lied to people about, and they still continue to lie about this to this day, CJ. Guys, when I used to be in the Bernie Sanders coalition, when I liked Bernie Sanders, when I used to like AOC, I didn't know this. Like, this is one of the things I thought she was a bartender, just an ordinary worker person. She was a DSA member. She took a long shot bid at running for office, and she won. That's the story. They don't tell you that she entered for Ted Kennedy. They don't tell you that she did like some volunteer program with USAID, with United States Aid to Africa. You know, that imperialist front, the CI imperialist front. She literally did a trip with them before to Africa. And she was she studied at Boston U for international studies, something that everyone knew was a common education path for people who joined the CIA in intelligence. So a lot of people who joined CIA intelligence, Boston U is the place to go, and they study international world, some wherever fucking major was, like international studies. Like that's like the code for, hey, I want to be CIA. You guys got me. So anyway, if I knew that, guys, I learned that shit hella late. I take the L on that. I learned that shit hella late around the time I was becoming skeptical of AOC. If I knew that AOC was a Ted Kennedy intern, that she did a USAID sponsored foreign policy trip, that she went to Boston U for international studies, that she was vetted. And if you think about it, I didn't think much about it at the time, but burn down the house. How the fuck did this random bartender get a Netflix deal for a movie called Burn Down the House? She was already being scouted, fam. And then we saw that Paula James lost the damn mind, right? She was part of that too. Paula James Swearigan lost her damn mind, became a red Brown Alliance conspiracy pushing fraud, pretty much a standard liberal bullshitter. That's who she is. She was in that movie too. All the people that turned out to be bullshitters was part of that Netflix Burn Down the House. They were all scouted. But anyway, CJ, I have a story.
Well, I do want to. The reason I stopped that article is because I do want to read a little bit of this. You're gonna want to hear some of this, Nick. I just skimmed a little bit. Okay, let me just read some of. So AOC.
Dude, we might have to break down this entire article at a different. I'm not saying you can.
Yeah, we're not going to read all of it, but we'll read.
I might have to fucking get a free trial for this, like just for this article and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Yeah. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, on how she's changed. A congresswoman from New York says she's different from when she first took office, but she's not ready to call herself an insider. And let's read just a little bit of it. Maybe the first two paragraphs. Rep AOC is used to being a lightning rod. Since her election in 2018, she has been celebrated and vilified by both parties, sometimes simultaneously. Miss AOC, though, is no longer the freshman outsider. Now in her third term, with a high-ranking position on a powerful House committee, she has learned to maneuver in Congress, making allies on the left and working with her political adversaries.
Oh yeah, I definitely gotta read this whole thing. I gotta read this whole thing later because this is crazy. Like it's funny how this article is doing so many things at once. But I'm sorry, I passed to you. I got to break this down later. There's so many things they're accomplishing at once with this article. But continue.
It's just like it's almost like a Morning Joe if it was written. You know what I mean? There's so many layers of propaganda.
Hey, they made the New York Times for a reason. Whoever wrote this and got this interview, they are the Kobe Bryant of this shit. You know what I mean? They made it to this level for a reason. Nigga, I made the New York Times the same way that nigga, I got drafted first pick in the NBA draft. Nigga, I got recruited by the New York Times. I'm a master propaganda. This is master class shit that we watching here. But anyway, continue, CJ.
Like right here, what do they mean making allies on the left? With who?
Yes.
Who are they talking about? Making allies. What allies? And I'll continue here. She says that might make the progressive wing of her party suspicious, but she's comfortable having more influence on the inside.
So AOC do not understand why we would be suspicious when you guys vote for Hakeem Jeffries, who says his number one goal is to stop socialists from winning office. So Hakeem Jeffries' number one priority is to stop your movement, fam. This is why we tell you guys that more than RBN, the TYTs, the David Does, and the Kyle Kalinskis, the people who believe in taking over the Democratic Party should be more upset at burning AOC than we are, really. Burning AOC helps us. They pull people towards Marxism and make them more radicalized because they hate how the social democrats are leading us. But if you believe in taking over the Democratic Party, you should be mad at Bernie AOC for conceding power to Hakeem Jeffries, who literally signed a death warrant on your movement. The DCCC and the people that Hakeem Jeffries is going to put in, they're going to destroy your movement, which is already struggling to win elections now. Right? But anyway, sorry. I know you want to continue, CJ. Go ahead.
Nick, and this will be the last paragraph because after I just saw this, we're gonna need way more time. Look at this. They read this to her, so this is sort of it's in article form, but part answer, like they ask a question. So the stuff in bold is them asking her a question. This is what they ask her. They bring up these recent articles, Nick, the ones we cover. Now
we broke every single one of these down.
I would be curious to hear what she says. This is the question. I want to read to you two recent headlines from New York Magazine. They were written within a week of each other. The first is AOC is just a regular old Democrat, so she cannot say she haven't heard these articles, Nick.
Yes.
And
I'm glad we read this part. Remember what I said in the beginning? This is the New York Times bringing AOC in and like, hey, bro, what's happening? I thought you was good, bro. I thought you was a radical. Like, this is them acknowledging. That's crazy. But anyway, let's continue.
Yes.
This is exactly what I said.
They're bringing up these other articles. So, Nick, you notice all these like literally how many AOC articles like this or something relevant to this matter in the last 3 weeks? It is a acknowledgement that she is losing influence. She is losing influence in the left radical spaces. She is losing influence. But I don't want to go on another diatribe, so let me read this. The first is AOC is just another Democrat now, and that accuses you of compromising your progressive ideas as you work within the party system. And then came the rebuttal. So, Nick, she can't say she's unaware of this, that she's compromised. She now knows. They ask you directly. So she can't pretend like just because she's not responding to us, she hears all of us on Twitter. She hears all of our criticism. She sees it. And let me continue, which was the AOC left has achieved plenty, which argue that your wing has pushed the party leftward. Why do you think your role is still being parsed this way by Democrats and those on the left? And this is what she says. Part of it is because we haven't. Oh, no, this is the part that she goes into, but I want to read the second part I haven't read yet. I think very often you had this consummate insider that was bankrolled by corporate money and advancing this, frankly, very neoliberal agenda. And those were the people that were used to seeing in power. And so I think over time, there's been an inherent association between power and assent and quote unquote selling out. So she's trying to say, yeah, you saw other people, and this will be all we cover because we want to cover this later. She's trying to say, yeah, normally, Nick, when you see people who are achieving these things that I'm achieving, normally those people are corrupt. Yeah. But I'm the first one that's not that, Nick. I'm different, is what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The signs that normally tell you the person is sold out, I'm different, though. But go ahead, Nick, if you wanted to chime in final words.
That's what they always say. Like, come on, man, not me. What are you doing? Are you calling me a sellout? That's so uncivil. Yes. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing.
We can move to the next story
before
now.
I get my last, before I get to my,
I got one short and you got one short, I think, and then we can close it out. But go ahead, you can go first.
I want to show this because I'm mad. I didn't read this part, so this is not even a segment. I just want to show you this because I'm having a great time showing you this article. I wish I remembered to read this part earlier, but this part made me chuckle because this is back to the Mediaite ranking us the most far left media propaganda network in the country. You want to know how they did it too? So CJ, they was watching our shit seething, fam. So they was explaining their so they was explaining their methodology. And I mostly skimmed this part. And I wish I would have read it when I did the segment, but it's all good. But look, it said we have over 60 analysts on staff, and they explained earlier, not in this part, but they explained earlier, these 60 people are like a mix between people who are on the left, people on the center, on the right. Pretty much Democrats, Republicans. You guys know how they view the Overton window. They have like 30 Democrats, 30 Republicans, right? And they collectively and manually rated over 60,000 pieces of news and information content. So we don't know how much of that they watched of us, but you can tell when they watch this graph and they explain in their methodology, they are watching our segments fucking seething, CJ. Like, because like these fucking crazy far right socialist propagandists. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Yeah. I love the fact that they confirmed that they definitely watched our shit here. Because they explained how they made the graph. They explained that it was a very scientific study. We had people watch. We'll make sure that they're either Democrat or Republican. Make sure they're not. We make sure we're checking people's biases. That's just what they did. That Democrat, Republican, and they watched our shit and they was in horror. Like, they're the farthest left shit we ever seen in our life. We never seen some far left shit like that before. Anyway, I'll move on. I just want to show you that.
No, that's great because Nick, also it like this is so. If you don't think RBN has influenced just even the NATO left, we like our influence, because look, we're out on an island by ourselves, not touching anyone on that graph, Nick. Extreme.
Not even
left.
touching.
Why are they saying extreme left? Because we are not willing to compromise on Palestine, because we're not willing to compromise on being what it means to be anti-war. We're not willing to compromise on the police state. We're not willing to sell out, Nick. That's what makes us extreme.
Yeah.
In propaganda. Go ahead.
These clowns believed that Cenk Uygur was a far left radical.
Get the fuck out of here.
Because look at TYT on the chart. TYT is considered hyper partisan left. Like to the right to us. And that's why I'm glad you brought it up. Because if you look at the graph, I'll scroll up again. When you look at the graph, a lot of people are touching each other. They're like, oh, these people are kind of close. These people are kind of close. Like Jesse Waters is close to ON, but they acknowledge that Alex Jones is different than Jesse Waters. You know, like, you see how all of them touching? Look, they make sure that there's a gap between us and anyone else. So they
like, no, these guys.
They used to view Cenk Uygur. See, they're like, man, they think Cenk Uygur is crazy. You see how he talk about Nancy Pelosi? And then these people were forced to watch our segment, and they're like, they was in absolute horror. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see where they'll put. I'm mad at them. They didn't put Jimmy Dore. I don't see Glenn. I don't see Breaking Points. I would love to see where they put them relative to us. That's why I'm kind of mad. It'll just be interesting to see what the perspective is to that. But anyway, I'll move on to the last story. This is another reason why RBN is considered the most far left extremist network in the country, according to Mediaite, because we tell the truth about Joe Biden, right? So people like TYT and other people like David Pacman, who they got a lot of trust for, they hear David Pacman, who may have criticism of how economics is running this country, but at the end of the day, he's going to tell you vote Democrat. At the end of the fucking day, right? So he's acceptable. We criticize the Democratic Party not using Tim Pool, Candace Owens, fake right-wing liberal bullshit talking points where they'll say, I used to be a liberal, man, but Democrat changed it shit too far to the left. That's the acceptable talking point. I'm the liberal, but the Democrats lost me because they shit too far to the left. No, we're like, here's the fucking receipts. We don't like the Democratic Party because they are the exact same as the Republican Party. They serve the same exact capitalist interests, and if you vote for the two-party duopoly, you are a fool. They heard us, they're like, oh my God, what the fuck is this? How do we even engage with this? Because our receipts, they can't handle. Like this one right here. You got progressives endorsing Jim Crow Joe. You have DSA that just put out a memo that said we got to work within the Democratic Party. Fam, the Biden administration is pushing for the privatization of water. Of water, fam. So once again, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is getting away with shit that the Republican Party wish they could. This story is something else. I have a hotspot video coming out on this here soon. This video is something. This story is something else. It's the headline. Biden infrastructure report pushes disastrous water privatization scheme. So there was a watchdog. There was a food and water watchdog who was reporting on the Biden National Infrastructure Council. These are the people that help Joe Biden craft his infrastructure policy and legislation. So they advocate for the privatization of our water, and they want the government to move in that direction. So look, here's from the report. This is from Joe Biden's Infrastructure Advisory Council. On page 15 of the 38-page report, the Advisory Council said the federal government should remove barriers to privatization, concessions, and other non-traditional models of funding community water systems. But this is the person that socialist, that Bernie Sanders is endorsing. You have civil rights activists and you have progressives that spoke out against the privatization of water for decades. Now the Biden administration is getting it done. So you guys would not believe the guy that Joe Biden hired as the chair for the National Advisory Council for National Infrastructure. You guys want to know who he hired? This motherfucker, you cannot make this up. This motherfucker hired a guy who's on the board of Goldman Sachs to be the chairman of the advisory board for infrastructure in this country. So, Adebayo Ongelesi is a board member of Goldman Sachs, and he also the CEO of a company, of an investment infrastructure company that is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and they make money off of privatizing water. So Joe Biden took a guy on the board of Goldman Sachs, the CEO of an infrastructure investment bank that makes profit based on privatization of water, and then he does a study and says, hey, I think you guys should privatize some water. So my question to you guys, for the people who believe that fighting for democracy, the people who believe that the United States is a democracy, I said this many times before. How do we vote Goldman Sachs out of our government?
All of us.
Donald Trump, the guy who's going to drain the swamp. Steve Mnuchin, hired him. Hired Steve Bannon. Hired a bunch of Goldman Sachs executives. Barack Obama cabinet was picked by Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. Every single administration had Goldman Sachs officials, executives, and board members. But you guys think this is a democracy? You guys think it's a democracy? Now, this is why we make the argument. See, I'm sorry, CJ. You have anything quick take?
No, go ahead. Continue.
This is why we have the analysis, and this is why it's ridiculous to call yourself a democratic socialist. I'm a democratic socialist because I don't believe socialism is inherently democratic. I think our system of capitalism is democratic. So we want to achieve socialism using the capitalist democratic model. That's a democratic socialist, fam. We do not live in a democracy. There is no mechanism in which we vote Goldman Sachs out. You have Neera Tanden, who is the White House domestic policy chief. Who voted for her? So you had Trump, and you had the right wing that completely bastardized what the deep state is. They believe the deep state is a bunch of people mean to Trump. They completely dumbed down and bastardized what the deep state mean. That's his job, right? The permanent state, the term, you also can call it the deep state, is a theory that we are ruled and we are governed by an unelected capitalist class. CJ, didn't we technically vote against Neera Tanden in 2008 when we voted against Hillary Clinton? And then we voted against her again in 2016. She was on Hillary Clinton's team both times. So technically, the American people denied Neera Tanden a be part of our government. But she's White House domestic policy advisor, CJ. How'd that happen? I thought we denied her. You guys see how your vote really fucking means nothing?
Kamala Harris.
So if you want to get Steve Mnuchin out of the government, how you doing? How you doing that? Both parties love the guy. Donald Trump loved the guy. Kamala Harris loved the guy. Know what I mean? I think that's about it. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. But this is Joe Biden doing what the Republican Party wish they could do. And this article brings up the fact that this is flying under the radar. Like this open project they're doing. It's the thank God for the Food and Water Watch, this watch group that is looking at the Biden administration doing something that was advocated against by many civil rights activists. So, CJ, any last thoughts? I think I'm pretty much covered most of what I want to cover.
Yeah,
so that's another. Go ahead.
I was just saying I got a short story, but I do have comments on this because I had seen some. I can't remember the tweet. I should have saved that tweet. I had seen somebody talk about this in the tweet. I think it was yesterday, maybe it was today, earlier today. And these things that Joe Biden are doing, do you think the media doesn't know that? Do you think the media doesn't know he's making several attempts to privatize Social Security? Does he think they know this stuff? Why aren't they reporting on it? But then they want to give him
on it.
Exactly. But then they want to give him a great face. He's the greatest, really? How can he be the greatest at the same time open up more federal lands, open up to oil drilling than anybody ever in history? How can that be both the same? And it's to the point to this too. Like, this guy is privatizing water. This guy has a history of trying to privatize Social Security, but now they want to project like, oh, it's the Republicans that's doing this, and this. It's the Democrats is the most effective evil. Yes. The Republicans may be the most public evil. They talk the most, but the Democrats are the ones who carry out the diabolical plans. Go ahead, Nick, if you're gonna say something else.
Yeah, that's such a great point. If you had Donald Trump that had hired a Goldman Sachs CEO of a infrastructure bank that pitched and proposed privatization of the water, you will have AOC and the squad tweeting about that shit every day. They be protests by Gen Z for change, but Joe Biden is doing that, and we are the only channel that's covering this. We're the only channel that covered Joe Biden denying a federal contract for union busters. We're the only one that called out the fact that Joe Biden's ICE is suppressing data that shows sexual assault and other violent crimes against migrants. I did a hotspot video on that. The RBN, the most extreme left-wing network in the country that often tells the incomplete story. Remember, they said we tell an incomplete story, but we're the only people that tell you this. So they hate us because we tell you the full story. Just like CJ said, they flip it.
Exactly.
So we're the only people telling you the full story of what the Biden administration is doing, from foreign policy to domestic policy, everything. For the fact, how many people talk about the fact that Joe Biden took COVID relief funds and sent it to the police? We did segments on that. We did segments on how he spent ICE, gave more money to Israel. He literally funded the genocide in Yemen war. Like, you had all these things. You had Joe Biden send nuclear submarines to Australia in order so they can point at China. But Joe Biden has been one of the most unhinged motherfuckers in government.
Unhinged.
Completely unhinged. Like, I had to make a new tweet later, CJ, because this is something else we got to add to the list. You know, I put this list together maybe like once a year, like all the horrible stuff Biden's done. I think the last time I tweeted was like in December. You know how much stuff we had to add from this year? I'm literally losing track, CJ. You guys see how I'm listing stuff off? I'm losing track of all the horrible shit Biden is doing at this point. But you still have people like Kyle Kulinski, Breaking Points, and other people playing lesser two evilisms with this class enemy psychopath known as Jim Crow Joe. I'm going to read this part just for educational purposes. This is a good last part to end on. They're talking about the effects of privatization. Privatization what deepens the nation's water crisis. I mean, this is all stuff we know, but I'll just read it for you guys. Leading to higher water bills and less accountable and transparent services. Privately owned water systems charge 59% more than your local government. So the way I see this, is Joe Biden waging class war on the working class. Because we will face the most brunt of this. Meanwhile, they explain less accountability, higher water bills, less transparent services. It's just a nightmare, and this is what the Biden administration is pushing, not Donald Trump. But I'll pass to you. I'll probably dip soon, but I think I can stay for your last.
Yeah, this literally gonna. Yeah. It's Margaret Kimberly's the entire article, it only takes 5 minutes to read, so we'll cover that. I'm not going to read the entire article, but we'll cover as much as we can in a 10-minute span. Let's cap it at 10 minutes or less. We'll be on here. So I'll read it quickly. But the reason it's important that we cover this, and this is one of those stories that has been pushed from two streams. I was trying to cover this 2 streams ago and yesterday. So let me read, and it's titled, "The Climate Crisis Will End When Capitalism Ends." This is by Margaret Kimberly over at the Black Agenda Report. And the climate emergency won't end because of heartfelt pleas to the people and the interests who created the crisis. Ecocide will stop when capitalism ends. Quote, "No more drilling on federal lands, period, end quote." That was Joe Biden, February 9th, 2020. The march to end fossil fuels will take place in New York on September 17th. So that's coming up, everybody. Days before the UN Climate Ambition Summit. Considering that July 2023 was the hottest month ever recorded on Earth, the role of fossil fuel production in the climate crisis surely needs public attention and action. But there is something highly problematic about marches and meetings that don't address 2 large elephants in the room: capitalism and militarism. Man, you can always depend on Margaret Kimberly.
Yeah. This is why she's the GOAT with the
fire, man.
She's the GOAT. The GOAT.
She is like, these mini mouth marches and meetings we do, that's fantastic, but it's missing the critique of capitalism and militarism. The United States military is the world's biggest emitter of fossil fuels, having emitted 1.2 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases into the
I'm gonna stop you there real
atmosphere.
quick, CJ.
Go ahead.
Because I'm gonna let you finish, because there's not a lot of things I can add to this brilliant article here. But I'm gonna add this here. This is why I am going super hard at the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders left, because they don't realize the person who did the most damage to the credibility of the climate justice movement is not the idiot far-right propagandists like Ben Shapiro. They did. No one harmed the credibility of the climate movement more than AOC. So you're telling other people that they got to start drinking straws, that we got to stop eating meat, we got to make all these sacrifices as you vote for Ukrainian war packages. The Democrats, who are open hypocrites about this, did the most damage. And this is why a lot of working class people are turning their back toward the climate change movement, because they see these people are hypocrites. If you support the Ukraine war, if you support Joe Biden, who bombed the Nord Stream pipeline, you are showing people that you don't truly believe in what you're saying. CJ, they say the climate crisis is existential. It's something that we must address right now. But let's vote for the Nord Stream bomber. Let's vote for the Democratic Party that's doing the When you guys do that, you show people that you don't even believe in the climate crisis.
Not
So
serious.
if you don't believe it, why should we? And that's the mindset of a lot of people who not buying this shit no more. But anyway, that's probably the only thing I'm gonna chime in on, because this article great.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and this is the difference between. Actually, I won't add that, because I do want to get through this article with this very short time, because I got to get out of here too. But there is something highly problematic. Oh, I read that part. We're down here. The huge number is no surprise, considering that the United States has more than 800 military facilities around the world and needs huge amounts of fossil fuels in order to operate them. We already covered how much it costs to operate Abrams tank. It's something like every 3 hours there has to be, I can't remember, it's something like 50 to 100 gallons of gas. Nick, when you have to travel 12 hours and you have to stop every 2, 3, 4 hours to fill up on gas, but they don't say anything about that when they're voting for that and how it affects climate change. Marianne Williamson, AOC, Bernie Sanders. But I continue. Fossil fuel usage can only end with radical changes to life in industrial nations and with very radical changes in politics. The March to End Fossil Fuels website is replete with pleas to Joe Biden to suddenly stop doing what he's doing, what he's been doing throughout his presidency. Quote, it's time for Biden to pick a side. Is he with us or is he, I'm trying to read it with a Valley accent. Is he with us or is he with the fossil fuel CEOs destroying our planet, including our communities? I think, and I'm going away from the article, I think the question has been asked and answered. Sunrise Movement.
The march to end fossil fuel. These people are they are fucking phonies. They're the weak beta cuck left I'm talking about. But sorry, go ahead, CJ. Look at this shit. But go, I'll let you continue.
Weak and beta. So quote, it's time to pick a side. Oh, I read that part. Biden answered that question. He is like his predecessor on the side of fossil fuel.
And they keep doing that. One more thing I'm gonna say on that quote.
No, go ahead.
Why you need pick a side? Fuck you. Fuck you. I heard that 3 years ago. And at this point, I heard that so many times from the DSA Gen Z for Change motherfuckers. This shit has been focus group tested. That is a focus group tested term.
Yeah, pick a side.
Because is Biden gonna show us? Does he support American front? No, he's already chose his side. They want this question to linger. They want the question to linger, CJ. So I promise you, 2 years from now, they're gonna ask the same question: Is Biden gonna choose us or the fossil fuel companies? And then in another 4 years, they're like, is Kamala Harris gonna choose us or the fossil fuel companies? I don't know. We never know, and we will never know they're with us or the fossil. You see how these dum-dums, fucking moronic, weak beta fucking leftists. If Biden on the fossil fuel, who knows? Who knows? We dumb. We don't know anything. They want that question to linger forever, CJ. Because I've seen them ask this question years ago. Literally, I've seen this shit so many times. That's why it triggers me. Because now I'm like, dude, that shit is definitely in the script. To get people following their work, like, oh, is he on our side? No, you do what Maura Kimberly's doing right now, and you say definitively he is not on your side. Why would you say that instead of posing it as a question? That is definitely a propaganda tactic. Definitely.
Exactly.
But anyway, sorry, CJ. I'll
no, to your point, that's why I like doing these reports, because we pick up on those things and we see the patterns in it, and we go, okay, this is another one of their tactics. We get another one of their tactics. So just like you did just now. So I'll continue and finish up. The duopoly's good cop, bad cop routine is quite predictable. Republicans pledge to drill for oil and proclaim their disdain for environmental concerns by opting out of international climate accords. Democrats joined the climate accords and claim they will work towards a fossil fuel future, as Biden did during his campaign in 2020. But once in office, they do what Republicans do. The U.S. is now producing a record 12.8 million barrels, Nick, of oil per day, more than any other nation. Democrats are the worst liars in this regard, as they are well aware that their voters want action on the environment, but their bread is buttered by big oil.
That's such an important point she makes there, that Democrats are worse because, like, yeah, you can make the argument that Republicans are bad at Joe Biden's issue, but they're not writing on it. They're like, yeah, nigga, this is our position. Meanwhile, the Democrat voters like, come on, guys, do something about the climate. No, fuck you. Now give us our vote. Give us your vote. This is the most important election of your lifetime. You guys see the difference?
Right,
go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're gonna say that's the difference between what though? Because it
might be a thing I was just about to say. At least the Republicans have the illusion of fighting for the base. The Democrats like, oh, you got to fight for climate. Let's pretend we're gonna do it anyway, and then they just screw you. That's like the worst form of betrayal. But anyway, let's continue. We gotta get out here. Let's continue.
But this is the generals versus the Globetrotters. This is what they do. They pretend, the generals pretend to fall down. They pretend to miss a steal. They pretend to miss a block. That's what they do. And let's get out of here though with this last paragraph. Biden has issued more permits for oil drilling on federal lands than Donald Trump did. He approved the Willow project on federal lands in Alaska, a project which is estimated to produce more than 239 million metric tons of greenhouse gases over the projected 30-year life. The much vaunted IRA, or Inflation Reduction Act, presented as a path to fossil fuel futures, actually ties renewable energy programs to oil and gas drilling. The IRA prohibits leasing of federal lands and waters for renewable energy projects such as wind and solar. It prevents it. That's ridiculous.
That's so crazy because you hear progressives literally tout that shit all the time. And like I said, I'm losing track of all the bad shit Biden is doing. Like, I only have so much info up there. Like, there's so many things. I keep forgetting about this one because I hear progressives constantly praise Biden for the same thing Mark Kimberly is ripping the shred. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, and here's the last couple of sentences here. The IRA prohibits leasing. I'm going to read this again. Prohibits leasing of federal lands. It gives the land to oil. It opens it up to them. I said that earlier in the paragraph. But it prohibits.
That's so crazy, dude.
That's so crazy.
That is so extreme, fam. You guys think Trump is extreme? You guys think Donald Trump is extreme?
Oh God.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's why I'm so shocked. I didn't know that.
I didn't know this at all. That's crazy.
Yeah. It prohibits it, and it says unless the government has offered at least 2 million acres of public land and 60 million acres in federal waters for oil and gas leasing during a prior year. So they have to offer that to the bad shit in order to open it up for the good shit. Otherwise, it's locked out. Last sentence, any environmental benefits outweighed by quintessent to corporate interests that jeopardizing all life of the planet. So jeopardizing all life on the planet is outweighed by corporate benefits is basically what that last sentence says. I know I jumbled it, but we can close it there. That was a great article by Auntie Margaret Kimberly. Capitalism is killing the planet, which is going to kill us all. And Nick, they don't give a fuck at all. As long as they can sip their martinis, on some clear water. It's funny because they want all of those things for themselves. In rich neighborhoods, they don't want all of this pollution. In rich neighborhoods, they don't want a bunch of police. In they don't want none of that shit. They just want it for us, Nick. That's my final words on that topic. Any last thing? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I told you guys that in this next election, I'm treating Biden voters the same way that we will be treated if we vote for Trump. Like, you guys can only imagine the backlash, right? So this is what I want you guys to say to these people. When we talking about the progressive left, call them to their face and tell them they are climate deniers. If you vote for Joe Biden, the Nord Stream pipeline bomber, you are no different than a Joe Manchin, Mitch McConnell climate denier. You realize that, right? The Nord Stream pipeline was one of the most devastating CO2 emission events ever. The biggest act of eco-terrorism in human history. And if you vote for that guy, you're denying that fact. You're openly being complicit with that, and you're showing the world that this climate fucking scam that you're pushing, you don't even fucking believe in. If you vote for Joe Biden. So every single progressive that's going to, I'm really good at trolling liberals, fam. If you want to have fun, call them out for this. Call them out for this bullshit that they voted for Jim Crow Joe, who has a record that stands with anyone in terms of environmental destruction. This election is going to be very fun. It's going to be the funnest election ever because so many of these progressives are going to completely reveal and expose themselves, and I'm going to have a blast exposing them for the capitalism, enabling imperialist propagandists that they are, which is why RBN is rated as the most extreme left network.
We're gonna be using it. We're gonna be using that, so just be used to it. Get used to it. We're gonna use that all the time. Do we have any other super chats? If not, we can get out of here. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, this is a little bit longer than I expected. We cover a lot of this.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, a lot of good coverage here. The Food and Water Watch is a Nader organization that canvassed to get petition signatures and handwritten letters on environmental issues. That does not surprise me because they are the one who busted Joe in the Biden administration. And I'm glad he clarified this for me personally, Janice, because I was like, who are these people? They just straight up exposed, and they are raising the flag. Like, why is no one talking about this? Like, if anyone else did what Biden's proposing, there would be a massive freak out. And that's why we told you guys the Democrats are the greatest evil. They do shit the Republicans wish they could do. Donald Trump wish he could fund ICE as much as Joe Biden with no heat. But he didn't do it, but he's gonna get heat for it. He's like, what the fuck? He's doing it more than me. They like him. That's probably why a lot of people on the right see that's exactly why a lot of people on the right view Democrats as liars and fraudulent charlatans. Because they're like, nigga, you hate Trump and you doing the same thing. But anyway,
yeah.
Let's continue. I think we pretty much caught up.
I think I read
so we can wrap up next week. I'll work on a few other guests. I'll announce later. Actually, I'll announce later for some guests. CJ, any announcements? I don't have a lot of announcements right now. Any announcements that you have?
Yeah, no, I don't have any announcements. I have the outro video ready to go. So I'll see you, Nick. Have a good weekend. It's a holiday weekend. We will we'll be here on Monday just like normal. It might be a different time, so make sure you get on our Substack that's scrolling at the bottom. We're gonna end with the clip of Bernie Sanders selling out his own movement and selling out the progressive side of things with this upcoming election. Here is Bernie Sanders on.
Welcome back. Back in April, Senator Bernie Sanders, who of course was Biden's chief rival in the 2020 Democratic primaries, ruled out a third presidential bid and endorsed Biden for re-election. But on Saturday, Sanders was back in New Hampshire, one of those early presidential states where he won both the 2016 and 2020 primaries, to share what he called his concrete agenda for the future of the Democratic Party at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. Of course, when you go to New Hampshire, it sparks some speculation about his own political future.
It is no secret that I want Joe Biden to be reelected president. If that is going to happen, if we are going to defeat creeping authoritarianism and right-wing extremism, there has got to be an ideological change of course.
The independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, joins me now. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me.
So the fact that you felt the need to do this, should we read into the fact that you don't believe there's a second term agenda yet that Americans can wrap their head around for what a second Biden term would look like?
No. I think what you can read into that is that Biden has every right to be proud of a long series of accomplishments. You know, 2.5, 3 years ago, this country was in the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. Because of COVID, today unemployment is all of 3%. We're gaining new jobs, rebuilding manufacturing. We've invested in the infrastructure. We're making progress, and Biden has a right to be proud of that. The point of my remarks is that you cannot simply, as President of the United States, rest on your laurels. What you have got to understand is that today, for structural reasons that have gone on for decades, tens and tens of millions of people are struggling to put food on the table. They can't afford health care. They can't afford prescription drugs. They can't afford housing. Yeah. They can't afford childcare. And meanwhile, in the midst of all of that, you have incredible corporate greed, and the billionaire class has never done better. So my message yesterday for the Democrats, not just for the president, is if you want to do well in this election, talk to the needs of the American people, have the guts to take on the big money interests who have so much power.
It sounds like you don't think the phrase finish the job is something to rally around, that there needs to be more than that.
Well, yes, you need to recognize that not only have we accomplished a great deal in Biden's first 3 years, and he deserves credit for that, but there are so many long-term problems that this country is facing. Does anybody in America think that our healthcare system is working? And yet the insurance companies make tens of billions of dollars, drug companies make tens of billions of dollars. We don't have enough doctors, nurses, mental health providers, pharmacists, dentists. So we need fundamental reform in healthcare. And by the way, the existential issue of our time is whether or not we address climate change. And we have made some steps forward, but there is no question in my mind, if we're going to provide allow our kids and grandchildren to live in a healthy planet, we've got a lot more to do.
Do you think there would be a robust discussion on this on the left if there were a competitive primary? Do you think there should be?
Well, what I think in this particular time, this particular moment in American history, when we're taking on somebody, the former president, who in fact does not believe in democracy, he's an authoritarian and a very, very dangerous person. I think at this moment, there has got to be a unification of progressive people in general all over this country, people who are prepared to make sure that women control their own body, that we deal with climate change, that we represent the needs of the working class of this country and take on the billionaire class.
One way that you make it clear that age isn't a factor with you is you're pretty energetic. We see you travel the country. You show up on, you do interviews. It is clearly an issue for many voters when it comes to President Biden. He's a year younger than you. You have advice to him on how he should assuage those concerns in the public about his age?
Look, when people look at a candidate, whether it's Joe Biden or Trump or Bernie Sanders, anybody else, they have to evaluate a whole lot of factors. I met with the president, 5 or 6 weeks ago. We had a great discussion. He seemed fine to me. But I think at the end of the day, what we have got to ask ourselves is, what do people stand for? Do you believe the women have a right to control their own bodies? Well, the president has been strong on that. Do you think that climate change is real? Or do you agree with the Republicans that it's a non-issue? Do you think we should raise the minimum wage? Do you think we should reform and take on the pharmaceutical industry? So age is an issue, Chuck, but there are a lot of broader issues than just that.
Let me ask you about Cornel West. He was a co-chair of your campaign in 2020. He's flirting with a Green Party bid for president. The numbers tell the story between 2016 and 2020. You can directly correlate the two third-party candidates, their collective total. That was the difference between Biden winning states and Clinton losing those key states. Are you trying to discourage Cornel West from running?
Well, I've known Cornel for many, many years. He's a very independent-minded guy. He will do what he wants to do. I just think, again, I think Cornel or anybody else can play an important role now about raising issues that are not always discussed. But at the end of the day, I think the progressive community in general and the American people have got to make a decision as to whether we stand for democracy or authoritarianism, or whether or not we're going to represent working class families.
One of your